Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Hello and welcome to the Simracersworld IMSA Winter Series live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is DJ Clark. Sam Kumo is bringing you this broadcast on our YouTube channel tonight, and we are here for round 3 of the championship at Daytona. DJ, we saw an absolutely incredible finish to last time out at Watkins Glen. Different tyre strategies being used by the drivers, and so everyone kind of converged, particularly in the P2 field right at the end. Then we also had a very close GT AM field as well. Here at Daytona usually facilitates close racing. Hopefully we get somewhere close to that level of drama tonight.
Well, hopefully we do indeed. And yeah, as you said, Daytona tends to facilitate that very, very close racing, provided you are able to stay within about 1.5 seconds of that car in front of you, as the draft here around NASCAR 1 and 2 and NASCAR 3 and 4 is positively mega. And so drivers are really going to have to try to keep up behind, as if you lose touch with that driver in front of you, it can find yourself falling back through the field in a world of hurt.
Absolutely. And so yeah, that draft is going to be super important, and stay close as well in those early stages, otherwise you can get very much detached. I'm sure plenty of practice being put in by the drivers across the 24 hours, I believe, occurring this week, so the drivers will hopefully have done lots of preparation for this. O'Leary is at the top of the standings at the moment. Daniel Kraft, who initially had the race win taken away from him last time out, he did regain it, so he did gain back some points on O'Leary. Apologies, it may have been the other way around, but Freitas in 3rd position, Forsyth in 4th position right there, and catch pole rounding out the top 5. But really, it's O'Leary and Kraft at the front of that one, and they really do seem to be dominating the championship at the moment. Then you got the GTD Pro, Oyston Hereford at the top of this one. Not really anyone's dominated so far in the first 2 rounds of this championship. Rays in second place, then it's Gribstad, Warner and Cooper rounding out the top 5. And in the GTD AM, we have got Wojciech Koci, who has been very strong so far this season. I believe won at Road Atlanta, and I think he managed to take the race win last time out as well at Watkins Glen, so he's looking very strong. Is the G-Day Sim Racing GTD driver. There's Anton Dupin, Jason Hodgson, Juraj Valle and Kevin Stringer rounding out that top 5. But really, someone's going to need to improve their pace if they are going to challenge Koci for the title, who is currently on pole position. We are currently seeing the P2s out in their qualifying session. Just got a minute or so remaining. Most of the P2s are out on track, and it's a normal setting at the front. I believe Dan Kraft has been able to take the first 2 pole positions of the season, and he's looking like he's going to make it 3 out of 3.
Does indeed. Has about a 0.3 of a second advantage over Kevin Zwemstra there. O'Leary, his title rival, back in 3rd. And that's nothing to really shake too much of a stick at, as this is open qualifying, and so drivers are able to pick up a little bit of tow from the drivers around them. And so I think some of those qualifying times may just be a little bit indicative of how well they were able to position themselves while starting their flying lap and picking up a little bit of that draft on front. So ride on board with Daniel Kraft right now coming into this treacherous turn 1.
I think I may have been slightly wrong earlier on when I said that Kraft took the race win last time out, because there was a bit of a controversy with the penalty decisions being given out. But initially, Kraft was given the race win with O'Leary getting a penalty. However, that was actually overturned post-race. So O'Leary with the first 2 wins of the season, and quite remarkably, that means that he potentially needs to win every round to the end of the season now, does Kraft. It gets complicated, I think, with bonus and penalty points playing a part for the drivers. But if he loses tonight, then even if he won the next 3 races, I believe he would still potentially either draw for the title or even lose for the title if O'Leary was able to finish 2nd place for the rest of the round. So DJ, it's quite an odd scenario. Kraft, I think, has been the fastest driver so far this season, albeit by a small margin. But this is almost a must-win race for him.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it's just kind of one of those weird flukes. When you have a bad race, it goes to show you what can happen when you have such an abbreviated schedule such as this. Kraft very clearly has the speed in the car, has the tenacity to go out and try to win this thing, but he is going to have to put everything on the line tonight to really try to get that number 93 up at the top of his top step on the podium.
So everyone coming into the pits, I think they're not allowed to do a time once the 30 minutes are up, because everyone's pulling into the pits. Tusting actually just on an out lap, so this one will definitely not count for him, and he'll pop in as well. And it'll be fairly soon that we will get into the race. Now, we have got a similar scenario to what we had at Road Atlanta in round 1. This is going to be a day to night race for the drivers. Fortunately, around this place, the floodlights do a brilliant job at illuminating the circuit. There really is no difference in visibility between the daytime and the nighttime. And it's good to see that being done, DJ, because of course we're coming up to the 24 hours, and yeah, it's always nice to see this changeable conditions, because you know, these guys are going to have to deal with those changeable conditions. You know, the track temperature is going to be getting a few degrees cooler by the end of the race, and that's something that they've got to cope with at the weekend as well.
Yeah, exactly. Dealing with those temperature changes, and when that happens, you've just got to be a little bit more on it when it comes to keeping track of your tires, making sure they don't overheat or underheat a little bit, maximizing the grip out of them. Watch for, as the sun begins to set, a little bit of tire spin starting to develop out of these cars. It's a very, very real possibility, and one that they're going to have to keep their eyes open for.
Yeah, need to keep on their toes throughout. and yeah, will be a really good one. Ben Hicks, I'm just saying, well, I mean, we'll go through the grid in a moment. We're just waiting for the timer to tick down. It often does do this. Does iRacing doesn't advance to the session. I'm just looking at the other fields, particularly the GTD Pro. Looking very interesting with Ben Hicks at the top. I think he's had some decent pace so far this season, but that is an impressive time for him as the session progresses, and you can see how it all of a sudden gets quite a bit darker, and seeing that it's already this level of light out on circuit, I imagine we're going to be in the dark fairly early in this race. Of course, only the 18th of January in Sim is this track, and so fairly near to the winter solstice. Daniel Kraft then on pole position with a 32.1, 3/10 clear of Kevin Swemstra. That, I think, was the gap last time out at Watkins Glen as well, but he did make a crucial mistake when out in the lead. He spun from out in the lead, forced him off strategy, and he lost out on the win by a couple of tenths of a second, but he is on pole in this really important race for him. Then Swemstra, O'Leary championship leader, Freitas, Catchpole, Forsyth, Claysons, Shermans, Barnes, Mocek, Zembera, Gosling is in 12th, and then it is Tusting and Roy running out this slightly depleted P2 field, a couple of less drives than what we had last time out, but still a very strong field, so it's going to be very entertaining. Ben Hicks is at the top of the GTD Pro, very impressive qualifying there for the Ignia Motorsports Blaze driver. Then it's Chris Warner, Bod Boland, Christoph Reis, Justas Stakiokes, Hakon Grebstad, Neil Cooper, Seb Herbera, Wim Stockmans, Western Hereford, championship leader way down there. Don't know what happened to Hereford in qualifying. Maybe he didn't get a draft from one of his teammates. Has got a few of them out on circuit though, so that is surprising. Then is Samuel Lamont. Wojciech Kochi continuing his great form. He is on pole for the amateurs. Then it is Jacko Boschov, Southey, Dupin and Hodgson. Our second and third out of the amateur trials. Then it is Chris Wood, Anthony Beck running out the GTD Pros. The rest of these all GTD AMs. Knight, Vallo, Stringer, Van Oitzven, Jones, Healy, Jackson and Kiduchi. Rounding out the 40 cars we have for this race. Yeah, Hicks at the top there. I mean, I'm struggling to keep track of all the results that have happened so far this season, DJ, but that's pretty good effort there from Hicks. I don't believe we've seen him at the front that much, maybe not down to his pace, but maybe down to misfortune, so hopefully he can yeah, fight for that race win tonight.
Indeed, and it's not entirely surprising that Daytona's throwing up a little bit of a wild card. As I said in qualifying, the draft a big help. This is also one of those tracks that either you have it down and you're able to get some mega time out of it, or it's a little bit slower and you just can't seem to get a good grips for it. So I think a combination of the both there definitely helping that Ignia Motorsports Blaze driver Ben Hicks get his way forward in that Ferrari.
And he needs to be putting in a very good start. Hopefully the others are fighting with one another. Otherwise he's going to really struggle to break that draft as we see him. But Kraft is soon going to be launching us away. He has had some excellent race starts so far. Really good on the race start is Dan Kraft. Hasn't delivered him a race win so far this season. 2 second places so far to O'Leary. He needs the race win tonight. We're about to get underway for 100 minutes of racing here at Daytona. Leaves it for a while, and it isn't a good start this time for Kraft because the other drivers had to get on the brakes in order to avoid one another, but he did still get a decent launch away in the end. O'Leary though straight up the inside of Swemstra. That's just what O'Leary needs. He needs to try to stay in the draft of his championship rival just ahead. So great work there from the championship leader earlier on. Also Catchpole getting ahead of Freitas a bit. Freitas in fact might even be losing out to Forsyth now, has to go defensive. In the GTD Pro, Hicks leading the way. I think Reis has already got past Boland, so excellent work from him. In fact, a few drivers on the even side of the grid getting a good launch. Not exactly what you'd expect, of course, but it seems like that has worked well for those drivers. A little bit of side by side between the Lamborghinis. Reis just consolidating that move on Boland, and it's not a great start for Voci. He's dropped behind Southey, who's had a mega start. The GTD Pro driver getting ahead of a few of his rivals, but Kochi still in the lead of those GTD AMs. But now Anton Dupin is right behind him, is the next closest rival.
And remember, Ducan was that driver in the last race out in Watkins Glen. It was a bit of a surprise to us working his way through the field, so watch out for him to have some good pace. The 214 Porsche now trying to get its way around the outside of the Eastern Horseshoe, the Western Horseshoe rather there. Ooh, little bit of oversteer as the car clicks around.
And it's all just preparing, just get it onto the oval, all clean, don't get any aero damage, and now we'll start this long chase, of course, not really gaining on the driver ahead of you, but you're still going to be getting a lot of speed, and everyone should kind of bunch up and then spread out at the bus stop, and then bunch up again, a bit like an accordion effect for these drivers. So Kochi was able to stay ahead of Boshov after all in that battle, so he has got a car's gap, but oh, as we've got a car across the grass, that's going to be huge slowdown on lap 1. That was the Lamborghini of Bod Boland, who done apologies, yeah, it is Bod Boland, apologies, who had got a really good qualifying, but that is going to be a devastating slowdown on that one. That will drop him back 10 places or so.
And it is much, much easier to do that nowadays as we've got a little bit of a pass for the lead here. That looks like Chris Warner trying to challenge Ben Hicks up at the top of the field, going the long way around turn 1, trying to hold that BMW out as much as he can. He's got a nose ahead, but the road's going to favor back to Ben Hicks. Hicks not letting it go at all, but there goes Warner into the lead.
Now look at Rays as well, just storming up the inside, so I'm surprised they're quite as aggressive as they are. If I'm honest, I would have thought they'd be quite happy saving fuel behind Ben Hicks, but none of it. They want to get past right away, and that was some ambitious overtaking there from Warner, of course, totally off camber on the outside of turn 1, and yet he still had the grip to make the move. So it's now Warner leading the way, Rays up a couple of places, Hicks down a couple of places, and these three almost out of draft range, about a second ahead of Justus Stakiakas.
Exactly, and the key number to keep in mind in terms of that draft range is going to be about 1.5 seconds. That's where you want to look at it as we jump back up to the front. Daniel Kraft being hounded here right now by Thomas O'Leary. That is the battle for the championship. O'Leary certainly within that draft range and keeping things very competitive.
Yeah, that was so important for him, and as far as I'm aware, I don't know if you got any more insight on this, DJ, but when I've driven the P2 cars, the jar effect is super heavy in these. I mean, probably heavier than the GTDs. So, I mean, if these guys can stay close. Oh, we got Selfie up. Oh, Selfie got such a good start as well. He was up 3 places. I mean, I was a bit suspicious, honestly, when I saw it, because to gain 3 places maybe indicates that he kind of jumps ahead of a few people, but it seems legit. At least he wasn't under investigation as far as I'm aware, but that has more than undone that initial good launch for him. Drops way out of the draft pack, as we see some really tasty racing here. This is Boshov, one of the drivers involved in this, as he runs a bit wide, and that is going to allow Anton Dupin to get past. Now these guys are fighting for points, of course. Pro and ads score the same point system, and so you do want to beat your pro rivals as an amateur driver, as I believe Rays has just taken the lead. Now that's an interesting place to get it done. He's got past Chris Warner seemingly at the first horseshoe, so good effort from him. And also Zwemstra's just got past O'Leary, so Zwemstra back up into 2nd place in the P2 class.
Yeah, that is going to be music to the ears of Daniel Kraft. But as you said, not exactly the typical place to get a move done as we jump back over here. Miguel Freitas and, Forsdyke and Catchpole in a nice little battle. That's James Forsdyke trying to hold it out, but Alistair Catchpole doing a good job to try to stick that LMP2 as, oh, we've got a car around in the back.
Mojcek after qualifying in 10th place. Did you avoid the wall there? I didn't see that one. Did it look like he made contact?
Like we're going to go back to check out the replay here. I'm not sure if there was contact, Sam. This just looks like, yep, brought the car in a little bit too hot. You could actually see the wheel start to turn. I think that was just a little bit too much steering input with a little bit too much speed, and the rear tires refusing to grip and just spinning around for the Czech driver. 100
lines that you can take through that first corner. That one seemed a bit unstable for the car, going over kind of that lip. Personally, one of my least favourite corners in the entire world, but I appreciate the challenge that it delivers the drivers, at least. But it is horrendous to drive around, at least in my opinion. as we got some, I'm amazed how aggressive everyone is being in the GTD class. Long races, 100 minutes of course, but they are fighting like anything. And remember, you get some damage on the car, it is absolutely dreadful. They do have a faster pair, so you could get the car fixed at your pit stop, but the drivers have got to go to about the probably 45-minute mark in order to get to the end of the race, so you don't want to be carrying damage for the next 40 minutes before you can take your pit stop. That would be really bad, but they're being aggressive. Kochi's still in the lead then. Dupin, the winner from last time out at Watkins Glen, in second place, and seemingly delivering on that pace once again, keeping in tabs. But I know you can't win the race at this point, TJ, but you can certainly lose it.
Indeed you can, and that's why that aggression is so surprising, especially at a track like Daytona where you have plenty of opportunity to pass. I'm a bit surprised we're seeing such aggression, especially going down into that turn one. Ooh, this is Stringer trying to make a move on Jason Hodgson right ahead of him. He's going to have a nose ahead in that Ferrari, bringing it all the way out wide. Is Hodgson's going to back off and letting discretion be the better part of valor there, going through the bus stop, not pushing him too hard.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, at least to me, bit of a surprising move there from Jane, because you lose a little bit of time having to go offline. It's almost better just to wait in behind and maybe try to get the move into one. But no, it's certainly, yeah, aggressive driving. Of course, if he feels he's much faster, and maybe he'll be able to pull away straight away. Just seeing, I think that was Hereford game past Stockman's. Hereford up 2 places. Championship leader, remember, is Oyston Hereford, but he hasn't necessarily been dominant by any means. We've got a kind of dangerous place on the track. That's PJ Clayson's, who will try to rejoin the track before the GTD cars come around. Now, as he hits the wall, this is always one of the big trouble spots in the 25s, taking that new curb on the inside, and he has hit the wall. He might get away with not having to take repairs until his scheduled pit stop, but expect to see plenty more issues around an already tricky corner.
Yeah, indeed. As we watch here, this is Zwemstra and O'Leary side by side. That's going to be O'Leary able to just nose ahead of Zwemstra. But yeah, it brings up a great point. That bus stop chicane reprofiled now. It used to be that you could take a lot of that inside curbing. With the new updates to iRacing, there's a big old sausage curb on the inside now that will really throw off the cars in these LMP2s in particular that have such stiff racing suspensions. They do not like to be taking a big chunk of the curb, so it can really throw them off if you're not careful.
See how the top drivers in the P2 class now kind of getting in the mixes. You can see the overspeed that Zwemstra's got, so these P2's really strong draft, and unfortunately, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to necessarily pin too much blame, but it did seem like Zwemstra earlier on, maybe a bit over-aggressive on O'Leary. Passed him, then they were busy fighting for a bit, and they allowed Kraft to get past, but you can see how, you know, he can pass him by NASCAR turn 4. You know, so the draft effect is so strong, you can easily overtake your rival. I think Zwemstra's got to think smart here, waiting behind O'Leary, who does seem to be fast, and that is what he's doing. At least he can save, you think, the amount of fuel he can save by lifting out there. It could be quite advantageous later up. I think O'Leary's certainly the man who they should elect to be at the front of this, as they really get into the heart of the GTD cars. Kraft getting through very efficiently. You can see on the track map he's got past pretty much all the GTD AMs so far. Meanwhile, these guys still got about 10 or so cars to pay.
It is, but this is not the area you want to catch them at all. Coming through the Western Horseshoe there, you see the big checkup that Kevin Swemstra's having to do. He's got to be later getting onto the throttle. Now jerking his way to the outside very quickly. He's going to have to dive down to the inside of that Ferrari. Whoa, a little bit offline there. You do not want to be offline coming out of the infield section. That transition in pavement types there can be very tricky. I'm frankly a bit surprised that he was down in first gear coming through that corner. 9 times out of 10, when you see a driver coming through there, you tend to see them really take the corner in second gear as to reduce any amount of wheel spin. Again, a compromised entry into the bus stop. Zwemstra just losing a lot of time courtesy of those GTDs.
Yeah, it seemed like O'Leary didn't really gain or lose anything on Kraft. It seemed like Remstra maybe lost a second or so in all of that, just got held up on that second horseshoe. Otherwise it would have probably been all right for him, as he still continued to bounce on. In fact, pretty much the entire GTD field at the front of it, all very close to one another. As I think, have we got a problem for Ben Hicks? Hicks, has he just had a mistake? Seemed to lose about a second very quickly to Chris Warner. Oh, as we've now got Dupan and Kochi around as well. Wow, so that is the top two from last time out at Watkins Glen. Have they collided? It seems like they have, and this could really change the championship in the GTD AM field.
As we go back to check this out, that's Dupan on the outside. They dive down into the corner. Oh, a little bit of ghost contact there with the Lamborghini, and Dupan just kind of spun around.
Yeah, Boshoff was the one, and then was that Kochi taking evasive action? I think it was Kochi who went wide. I don't know if we could get maybe another replay of that, but get it from Kochi's perspective, because he seemed to kind of go to the outside, anticipating the cars ahead to kind of go wider. So I don't know actually what happened to Kochi. So Kochi had fell behind Dupan after being ahead earlier on. You can see he's tried to get out of the way. I don't know if Dupan maybe might be under investigation for not holding the brakes there. And yeah, into the wall he went. So that has changed the order. Means that Stringer is now at the front of the GTD AM field, and we wait to see if either of those two spinners will require repairs.
Well, I don't know about the spinners, but I know on Kochi's machine there was some pretty significant right front damage to that car as we watch Neil Cooper very side by side with Oyston Hereford there. Almost a little bit of Noah's Ark style as we go into the corner with Herber and Stockman's behind. Whoa!
Well, that was always going to go bad. That's the 77 of John Barnes going for a far too aggressive move, and in fact he's actually made contact. That's with Oyston Hereford, the championship leader. What's going on with the championship leaders tonight? Oyston Hereford now around, and he was the unlucky one because everyone else almost got hit, but he was the one who eventually got that smack. And well, this will be a great on board with John Barnes, because he totally misjudged this one. You've got to bail out here, and I don't know, I think that's quite poor there from Barnes, because it was clear a long time before that corner that there wasn't the opportunity to pass. You've got to just get on the brakes, save a bit of fuel if you can, lift off the throttle, and instead he went for a pretty crazy three-wide move.
Yeah, indeed he did, and clipped a little bit of the grass on the inside. That could have affected his braking just a little bit as he went down into the corner. One way or the other, I have to completely agree with you, Sam. Just a little bit too much of a crazy maneuver this early in the race. He wasn't really battling anybody up ahead of him. He didn't really have that much to gain from trying to go in there. Much better to just back off, hold it out, as we refocus here on the leader of the GTD AMs, as you said, Kevin Stringer.
Yeah, not far ahead of Hodgson, and then it's Jones. Knight doing well. Yeah, Edward Knight had a good round a couple of weeks ago, didn't he, at Watkins Glen, if I recall correctly, or maybe I'm thinking of time before. Yeah, I think because Knight didn't change his tyres, I believe, absolutely messed up his race. At least I'm assuming the drivers will stay on one set of tyres around here. I mean, I've heard triple stinting in the 24 hours before, so I think that won't be such a battle, but it was fascinating last time out at Watkins Glen, seeing that change in strategy with some drivers not changing their tyres and losing 4 seconds a lap by the end of the race. It was quite painful to see a few of those mistakes out there. Hereford with a lot of work to do. He's 19 seconds off the lead at the moment in his class. Probably not going to win tonight. Just about damage recovery if he possibly can. As yeah, we see Craig Jones really these top 3 in the amateur class closer than they've ever been.
Yeah, really keeping things close together here, and Hodgson sitting in a little bit of catbird speed. Now, I do expect that BMW to be a little bit favored around here. That BMW known for having some pretty good straight line speed, and for as long as they are on full power around this Daytona International Circuit, it's really going to come to the benefit of Ferrari up ahead of him, a pretty good all-arounder, so it should be pretty competitive as well. The Lamborghinis tend to like a little bit more pointiness. They like to be into some corners. As we've got a little battle here, this is Zwemstra, and that's the 52 of James Forsdyke getting on by him.
Yeah, Zemstra not with the pace they had in qualifying, seemingly dropping down the order, but they are teammates, and so maybe Alcantech feeling like Forsdyke is a bit past. A very good team is Alcantech Racing, also in a few of the Apex Racing leagues as well. As we've got a change in the GTD Pro. That's yeah, here we go. Stakicus getting or was momentarily ahead of Rays, but now they have changed back again. Stakicus with a brilliant pace. We have seen him in previous rounds because I remember struggling with his name. Unless I saw announce it, I mean, it could be half a dozen drivers, but he is driving terrifically well. We know that that Audi hasn't got any weight ballast. The BMW's got 25 kilos of weight penalty, Lamborghini 15, Porsche 5. And maybe that's making a bit of an impact here, helping out that Audi. But he is looking like the fastest man out on circuit at the moment. On that last lap, was a couple of tenths faster than Christoph Race.
I believe he was, and that's a great point about
Oh,
that.
Hicks.
Whoa, Hicks around.
Back going again, but that's our pole sitter, of course. But he has he's another one. He hasn't delivered on his qualifying pace, and well, this spin will hurt him. He was in a nice draft actually, in 5th place, as you can see on the windshield there, and yeah, lost it very early on. Very fortunate not to get hit.
Very fortunate indeed. That's a pretty blind part of the circuit. You don't really have a whole lot of area to get around in, so Hicks very lucky to be able to get that car back and going, although it does look like he may have a wee bit of damage, but I don't think it's too much.
Craig Jones looking to get past. Well, this is with this is with Ben Hicks, of course. This isn't with Hodgson, just ahead of him. As we have now finally got a change for the lead, and it looks a bit more permanent this time in the GTD Pro category. You can see the number 2 there, trying to get past, but these guys so deep on the brakes. Darren Roy, the P2, trying to get past. He's now trying to find another way. This will be quite a tricky move. Just about gets past us. What the guys are constantly having to navigate. It was particularly tricky in this early stage, but most of the drivers are all bunched together, or all the GTD cars at least are all bunched together. You can see that P2's a huge field spread actually, quite a difference in pace between many of the P2 drivers. Quite a tricky car, of course, to drive, and quite a range of abilities in this series. So kind of top 6 quite close, but then and then you kind of got 8 down to 12 very close. So of course 7th place, Nick Sherman's very much by himself out on that circuit. They're not really anyone to race. There's your race leader, Dan Kraft, not really extending that gap too much over O'Leary. It's maybe a 10th per lap advantage for Kraft, but he has currently got that race lead.
He does indeed. About 4.3 seconds is what he's holding it at right now, and I get the sense for Dan Kraft that he doesn't really want to push that car too hard. He knows he's got a big enough gap to be out of draft range. He doesn't need to take any really unnecessary risks here. It's just a matter of keeping this pace good, keeping himself going ahead. He does not need to do anything crazy.
Just looking at a huge battle right now from Hodgson down to Van Oitben in 32nd position. There's about 6 cars in this, separated by about half a second each one. No one close enough though for a move. Heading into turn 1, as you see those headlights really starting to kind of shine off this Daytona surface, this new surface. As far as I'm aware, and feel free to correct me, DJ, or if Sam knows this as well, or if anyone on the YouTube chat knows. I don't believe the actual road course was rescanned. I think the curbs were changed, but I don't think the road course was rescanned. Do you know any info on that?
No, I don't believe it was rescanned. I do know that they added some of those curbing, as you said, specifically stuff coming through bus stop. But I think the interior infield section here, no real changes were made to it on the latest rescan for iRacing.
Which is a shame because they didn't rescan it the last time as well. So we've now got like maybe a 2-month-old oval with a 12-year-old road course, but it's not much of a problem. I'm not complaining too much. It's not necessarily, unless there's an improvement, there's not necessarily any need to update the circuit. So no problem by me, but no, I do find it a bit funny that there is such a discrepancy, as there's no discrepancy between these guys. They are nose to tail. Ray's behind Stakiokas, but he doesn't show any sign of wanting to overtake into turn 1, probably wanting to save fuel. Grebstad in 4th position at the moment. His times are better than these drivers. He was 2/10 faster that last time round, having to do it alone, so he won't be saving any fuel. You can also see Herber as well with some pretty good times. I bet he's quite a bit further back himself. So this top three certainly establishing some good form at the moment, but Grebstad keeping an eye on it.
Exactly, he is, and he'll be wanting to catch up just a little bit more, as you said, trying to maybe pull in within effective draft range before about that 45-minute mark when we expect the pit window opening for the majority of these GTD machines as they continue to work their way around here. Watch Herber with Will Stockman's behind him. This is Nathan Healy back in 6th place for the GTD AMS, and that's Guiducci right behind him as we've got an LMP2 streaking by.
Guiducci started last of everyone, but his pace has been much better than that. I think he maybe had a problem in qualifying, but yeah, he was 7/10 faster actually in that last time. In fact, he was as fast as 10th place pro Chris Wood. So last time, so he has got plenty enough speed, and you can see visibly catching up to the back of the Mercedes, which I do sometimes think looks a bit like Aston Martin. I remember in my first year or so I was always getting very confused about that, but it is definitely a Mercedes as he goes around the outside. Might defend this one as they've got Van Oitman off the track just ahead. You would have been able to see the smoke. Van Oitman, oh, we've got Guiducci round and hard into the wall, and that is surely going to be too much wheel damage to continue without repairs. Guiducci moving his way up through the order, but maybe a bit compromised his visibility there, running so close to the car ahead, and he hits that wall hard.
Did indeed, and I think the reason for the spin was a little bit of contact from one of the LMP2s behind. I believe that may have been either Zwemstra or Forsythe, right, or Forsythe rather, or Freitas right behind him. Just a little bit of a touch from the rear into the rear of that Lamborghini. I think they just misjudged how much throttle Guiducci was going to be putting on, and the contact ensued.
We'll get a replay of it now. See that Batsing just ahead did fight it in the end. Did the 19th place car, and then I think it was just by himself on the Guiducci. I think he did just take too much curb there. Zwemstra the one coming across him. And yeah, I think he's probably got to take responsibility for that himself, unfortunately. And yeah, Chris does have that fast repair, so we'll be able to get back out on track, but obviously those GTD cars, it's not easy to make this race with a one-stop. You will need to be pitting, or as far as the fuel will be going, will probably be around 55 minutes or so, and so you haven't got that much of a variance, and certainly will require one extra pit stop for Guiducci tonight, and of course needs to make sure he doesn't have any more crashes, otherwise that would be really game over for him. Would be able to repair the car. We tune back in on our leaders. Still Ray's happy to stay behind Stakiokas. Can't help but feel like, well, Stakiokas is in the lead here. Ray's saving the field there he is, and Warner as well. maybe with slightly more control. Their lap times improving though, 44.7 on that last time, and they are starting to pull away again from Gribstad, as there's just been a change for P3 in the P2 class. Forstijk back ahead of Zwemstra right now, so they can't seem to decide who's the fastest out of these two out in that team.
Well, and I wonder, Sam, if there's maybe a little bit of fuel-saving strategy that's going on with Forsdyke trailing behind for a little while. Zwemstra now going to be able to one tuck up behind in the draft. It may just be a mutually beneficial scenario for the two of them to each have some time to back off and not be in the lead, so as to not be having to keep that right foot completely all the way down, all the way through NASCAR 1 and 2 and NASCAR 3 and 4.
And be a very good strategy, of course, but you got to do it right. I've seen plenty of times in the past teammates try to do fuel saving, and often they lose each other a lot more time than they gain. You can try to coordinate and choreograph these things, but often if you do too many changes, it can just be very messy, break your rhythm, and lose you time overall. But yeah, hopefully those guys are getting that correct if that is their strategy, as you're explaining. Sembera on the back of his teammates. Thomas Mocek, who did have an off earlier on. Sembera on that last lap was 2/10 faster. I wonder if these teammates will swap it around as well.
They very well might, as it definitely looks like here. Oh, as we jump back up a little bit more, swapping around for Zwemstra and Forsdyke, just maybe trying to play a little bit of leapfrog here, Sam.
Yeah, if they're doing it every lap, I think that's a bit too much. I think you shouldn't. I know, and this might be a bit patronising, you know, but and you know, people in the chat, you know, criticise me and let us know what your thoughts are on this strategy. Would you be doing that if you're out there, but changing every lap and sort of deliberately doing every lap, that is very tricky to do. If anything, it might be better to just yeah, have one guy ahead for a couple of laps, or yeah, kind of 3 or 4 laps maybe. Does mean that Freitas is catching up to these guys and catch pole as well, a bit further back, not great pace for Alistair, considering that he qualified up in P5, as we've got Samuel Lamont off the track. He was up in 8th place or so in the GTD Pro field, but that mistake has sent him down, as we see Christoph Reis move to the front in the GTD Pro field.
Indeed, that Lamborghini Tiana waiting behind the Audi, going to push its way forward. And don't forget Warner there in the background on that. That's the car that I'm really keeping an eye on. We haven't seen any aggression at all out of that BMW. And that really tells me that he's in control right now, that he is just chugging his way along and doing very well. Now, as you said earlier, there is a weight ballast that has been put in by the race organizers on the BMW. Little bit overpowered, but at the same time, it still does have fantastic straight line speed, even with that 15-kilogram weight ballast. So I really think he is just backing it off, saving some fuel here, and not being too aggressive.
He gets overtaken by one of the PTs. I think you're absolutely right as to what he's thinking at the moment. Just looking at the championship standings as well. Because whilst Hereford led going into this round, he had a poor qualifying, then he was taken out by John Barnes. But if it ended like this, I believe Reis would take the lead of the championship. Warner would still be behind Grebstad. Basically, it'd be Reis, Hereford, Grebstad, Warner. If it ended like this in championship. Those four were quite a way clear of the other drivers. You know, only a third the way into the season. But it does seem like they are going to be the ones contending for the title. So yeah, some important point swapping, albeit one would assume that Hereford will be able to get back a bit further up the order by the end of this race. He's currently down in 11th place as Hereford, some 20 seconds off the GTD Pro lead. Stakiokas tries to really ace that bus stop just to stay within draft range of Reis. As I see on the time screens, Zwemstra getting ahead of Forstijk. Not really anything significant. The teammates still trying that strategy. As Stakiokas getting the gap down to about 0.3 of a second. Certainly won't be close enough for an overtake here, but it is interesting to see just how much of a gain he can get, and you can see 4.5 tenths of a second at the start of kind of going into NASCAR turn 3, turns into, well, really probably less than 2 tenths on the brakes for turn 1, so yeah, handy straight line speed there for the Audi.
Yeah, indeed, and not only what the Audi's known for, as we see Bod Bowman working his way back up through the field. Remember, this is one of the spinners from early on in the race, having a good little battle there with Cooper. Cooper getting very aggressive, as now that is the 14 coming up behind them. That could get a little bit hairy, as that is Mokik and Sembra. Oh, as we've got an LMP2 off on the side.
Nick Sherman's, that mistake you were saying earlier on, was all by himself in 7th place. Well, not anymore. He's maybe got a bit bored and he's decided to join the pack a bit. He's kind of still by himself. He's still not particularly close. Only a couple of seconds ahead though of Paul Gosling. Also, John Barnes has had to tow back to the pits, which is a shame. Or has he decided to come into the pits on his own accord? No, this seems to be an issue for him. Number 77. In contact with the BMW. Oh, he's just got onto the grass and then hopping over the grass. Well, that'll do some floor damage. I think Barnes having enough of that one. The Quantum Racing driver back to the pits and leaves us with just 13 P2 cars remaining.
Yeah, indeed it does. The LMP2 is starting to get thinned out around here, and despite this being one of the homes of American endurance racing, these LMP2s are very, very tricky to get around here. They much prefer a little bit more of a smoother track in terms of turning and cornering. This Daytona circuit, it's very, very aggressive, having to get on the brakes, really slamming on the brakes into the bus stop and down into turn 1. And it takes a very, very deft hand to pilot the LMP2s around here, not only quickly, but safely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I would like to, I mean, because DJ, I don't try to be too negative on race circuits, as we're going to have a change of position here, potentially. That's Hicks and is this with Hodgson? Apologies, Stringer. With Hicks. Hicks now ahead, but here comes Stringer again. SCC, our driver, trying to respond. I think Hicks will get the better exit though, should be ahead. Yeah, just about gets ahead, albeit he will be under pressure on the next straight. You can see how close now Stringer had been able to pull away slightly from the other GTD, as per his teammate Jones is right with him, and Knight is there, and Hodgson not too far behind either. But Sprinters has actually come into the pits, which is one of the earliest stops, as Knight spins around, hits the wall as well. Does he make contact with Hodgson? Just about avoids him. That's another really tricky place to be. Edward Knight clipping the grass on corner entry, and after looking really strong, and Stringer's lost it as well, so the first and third in the GTD AM have spun at the same corner.
Yeah, and you saw the issue there for Knight. For Stringer, I was able to check that out. It was just an issue of getting on the throttle a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too early, those rear tires spinning up and sending that car in a perfect pirouette coming out onto NASCAR 1. It's a very, very easy issue to have happen, but very, very difficult to recover from.
An issue for Forstdijk as well. I did see him go off the circuit briefly, so he'd already lost a bit of time actually to his teammate Zwemstra. But then he's going to take too much curb. Oh, that was way too much curb, and then kind of bailed out of the second part of it. Then gets the big slowdown as well. Was able to. Oh, so he stayed ahead of Freitas, I guess, because Freitas had went into the pits, which was a bit earlier. Now we're expecting drivers not to take tyres around this circuit, at least in the GTDs. For the P2s, I'm just trying to think back to 4 weeks ago. It was a while back, DJ. I don't believe the P2s took tyres 4 weeks ago, did they?
I don't believe they did, and Daytona is known as not exactly the most abrasive track surface, considering that this is a sort of what we like to call baby bottom smooth super speedway surface around the outside of it. And the corners that are on the infield section here, while they are a little bit bumpier, they're not super high-speed corners like you saw at Watkins Glen, so there's not really that lateral force being applied. Good little move there for Stringer, trying to get a little for Knight, rather trying to get a little bit aggressive, trying to get up on by, but that really...
No, teammates! Oh, what are the teammates doing? Oh, so was it contact with Knight? So, was it Knight with the tap from behind? Oh, dude, well, it was all just very unnecessary, honestly, there, because the teammates were fighting unnecessarily hard, and then Knight, oh, he's there, isn't he? He's alongside, of course, we couldn't tell, and, oh, you know what, that's moving down the track from Stringer, and they collide again. What is it around that part of the circuit where they really compromised both of their races? And so Knight's down to 7th place now with all of that, and Stringer down to 5th. Stringer now some 9 seconds off the GTD AM as we AM lead, as Kraft is into the pits, and that is certainly a sign that this is as far as the fuel will go for the P2s. O'Leary able to go 1 extra lap, so he'll be really in a strong time here to cut down that, I think it was about a 5-second margin that had grown.
Yeah, it's about what it was. Looking there at Daniel Kraft, doesn't look like he's going to be taking tires, although we won't know that until a little bit later on in the stop. Obviously, you can't do both simultaneously. It's got to be fuel, then tires, and the way the system is set. Watching here on Mokic and Sembra, both of them look like they're coming down pit lane, as well as, I think that's Gosling, excuse me, it's Clayson, Mokic, and Sembra all deciding to come down.
And a very quick pit lane round here, albeit some of the pit lanes on iRacing have been sped up on the most recent build. I think Suzuka, I think it's gone from like 40 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour, which is lovely stuff. And of course, also we've got that different pit limiter. I think that's been the case for a while now, actually, around this circuit. But you do have to keep the limiter on for a bit longer on that pit exit now around this track, and it does pretty much reduce the amount of incidents that we have. Thank goodness. So I think quite a good change. That always very stressful. Always first lap when you load into the sim. And you do practice, or you used to do practice around here with that pit exit, or at least myself would always been it immediately, but never made that mistake in a race at least. O'Leary has come into the pit, so he wasn't able to go that much further than his rivals. Staying very far away from his pit boxes. They must have the peripheral vision of an owl in order to see the lollipop man. But I trust that he will get it right. As we just see Selfie getting past Nathan Healy. That's Pro versus Am.
Indeed it is, and remember, these drivers are allowed to battle out on track. It's not like if you are in the pro category, you are guaranteed the right to the road. The AM drivers certainly able and encouraged to keep up their fights as much as possible as they work their way around right now. One of the lone Mercedes out there for Healy, that is the number 9. Diving down to the inside, that is John Tusting, one of the LMP2s. Tusting currently running out in 11th place in class.
So the gap between the top 2 and the P2s is O'Leary yet to get, oh, I think it's grown, if anything. Very similar pit stop times. Pit lane transit was a tiny bit faster for O'Leary, but we're talking a couple of tenths. And Kraft now with a 5.5 second gap. So that fighting for O'Leary with Zwemstra earlier on really has harmed him quite a bit. And if it weren't for that, he would be right with him, because their paces seem to be very even, as it has been for the entire season. We had that brilliant duel between the two of them at Watkins Glen. But O'Leary, if he's going to make it 3 out of 3 to start the season, he is going to have to do some catching up with the time that remains in this race. Albeit we have still got an hour to go here at Daytona, as we witness catch pole just going past a couple of those drivers. Some bad news for Chris Warner, any STR fans. He has sort of dropped off the back of Stakioka, so I think he had a poor lap a few minutes ago, and after looking sort of quietly confident, I would say, just hanging around in that third place, saving a lot of fuel, he's kind of lost that draft effect, and he's struggling to maintain that gap at 2 seconds now.
Yeah, and that's going to loosen him out of the bracket. He's back on lap 19. He lost about 1.2 seconds, and from there on out, he has been just kind of slowly bleeding bleeding time away. Meanwhile, Stakiokas very heads up here, keeping close behind Rays, doing a very, very good job of not letting that Lamborghini streak off into the distance and filling its rear view mirrors with the sight of that 4-ringed Audi.
Yes, Stakiokas looks very, very happy in that position. And of course, Rays was able to save a lot of fuel earlier on. Stakiokas now in that.
Continue to watch here, that battle just slowly playing itself out. I really and truly do think that Stakiokas here, after making that attack on Rays in the beginning, is very content to just sit back and watch as just checking back on those lap times. Another about 1/10 of a second lost for Warner. That BMW really looking like it's struggling outside of the draft.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to quite have the pace of these guys, albeit their lap times are getting consistently faster. They're now down to 44.3s. Now Stakiokas did do a 43.8 earlier on, but I don't know, maybe the tyres are particularly powerful in these in the early stages, because at least earlier on it seemed like they were kind of in the low 45s and the high 44s, and yeah, now to kind of low to mid 44s instead. Van Oitman battling with Stringer. And that is Stringer up another place, of course, recovering after leading for most of this race. It's been a crazy race in the GTD AMS, because it feels like a while ago that, of course, we had Kochi leading the way. And Kochi now has had some problems, I think, because I guess he had to take repairs. Apologies for maybe missing that, as Jackson has had a spin. So another GTD AM having a problem. We'll do well to get that one turned. Kochi, apologies, is the leader in the GTD AM Championship and is over a lap down on the leaders, and will have to do the same amount of pit stops to get to the end of the race. And he earlier on was battling with Antoine Dupin, who spun in front of him. Dupin not really holding the brakes, but I don't believe he's got a penalty for that. And in fact, he is trying to get past Nathan Healy. His face has kind of very much got away from SCCR Simsports. But Healy's trying to hold on. He has held on. Excellent work there from the Mercedes Trevor. He's run a little bit wide, and he'll be vulnerable when they head on to their 25th lap of the race.
Indeed, and you can see Dupin really closing up here. Now, this is the point when you want to really minimize any inputs on the wheel. He's going to have to poke his nose to the outside as he's doing a very good job to protect that inside line. It is pretty easy to carry momentum going down into turn one. Just let the car come out. You make the apex a little bit later. Dupin doesn't want to risk it. He's choosing to just stay in line, has to back off a little bit, looking for a little bit of an over-under, and there he goes, right on through. That is a textbook head fake there from Antoine Dupin. A really, really good job to get that Porsche back up into the podium positions.
Yeah, Healy was really fighting hard on that one, but fought too hard, broke too late, and Dupin set back into the podium places. And well, I was really saying earlier on how Bocci, how someone will have to really up their pace in order to challenge Bocci for the title. First and second so far this season for Bocci. As we see that Dupin, maybe there was a tap, I'm not quite sure. It's very difficult to tell. You can always have netcode on these things. But with Bocci having such a dreadful round, I mean, currently 11th place out of the GTD AMS, and probably about 13 places down. Guiducci has had another issue, needs to turn off the traction control if he's going to spin it round. Instead, elects just to do a 3-point turn. And it seems like he has hit the curb again. We know that he hit the curb earlier on. Has he hit it again? No, we guessed too early. We guessed too. Apologies, Danielle. Instead, it was just the classic losing grip from the rear end.
Yeah, just a little bit too much speed brought into the first part of it. You see he gets on the brakes. He's going to opt to take his pit stop now. Maybe just a little bit of a mental reset for Guiducci there to be able to come on in into the pits, and sometimes that can be very, very helpful if you have had an issue like that, to just kind of take a breather while the car fills up with fuel.
And I imagine he'll be able to get to the end of the race now on that, say, 55 minutes or so, we'll be pushing it, especially around a very high fuel consumption circuit like this. Of course, you're flats out around the oval throughout, and then a lot of these kind of hairpins, you're wasting a lot of the speed that you generate, a lot of the energy that you generate, and kind of wasting it with some braking power, and then got to accelerate all over again. So one of probably the highest fuel consumption circuit of the season, but yeah, should just about be able to make it. I assume that's at least part of the reason why he came into the pits as Herbert. Now 8.3 seconds off the lead. Hasn't quite got the pace of the front guys. I mean, he was a tenth slower that last round. I can only hope that he has a fun race though. Seb Herbert, who has seemed to have improved actually as the season's gone on. I think he was a bit off the pace at Road Atlanta, but he has been a lot better since then. Very much a veteran of Simracersworld, and he is up there in 5th place, albeit that lap time a bit slower, lost 4 tenths to some of the cars ahead.
Indeed, as we check back in behind him, Bod Boland continuing his charge back up through the field. He's got Cooper directly behind him. That's Neil Cooper in that fellow Lamborghini, and a Porsche right behind of Stockton. So a very, very close battle here, three-way fight for this top 6 position, but Bod Boland's going to really... Oh, we've got a side-by-side with Warner.
Yeah, Warner now coming to defend against Grebstad. So what a change for Warner, fighting for the lead. To just trying to hold on to a podium position. Grebstad has been quietly going about his business, has had good pace, slightly slower than Reyes and Stakiokas, but we're talking maybe half a tenth a lap slower. Certainly has been faster than Warner though, a couple of tenths a lap faster than Warner, and I think this is probably just a matter of time. I'll see should have the overspeed heading into turn 1 the next time.
Yeah, exactly. He's just going to tuck himself up behind in the draft here. Grebstad trying to see what he can do. He's just got to focus on getting a good launch here out of the bus stop. Doesn't take too much curb. It's not the perfect getaway, but it looks close enough that he should be able to get a good go.
Yeah, he's just about 2 tenths of a second behind. Goes up high, trying to maybe just not get into the draft too much, and then get into the draft, build up a little bit of speed as well if you go up high there. And he will certainly get his nose ahead. Super tricky to go around the outside, of course, off camber, but if you're much later on the brakes, you can get it done before the corner even starts, and that's what he has done. Grebstad up into the podium places and could still win this race. The bad news for him is that whilst Reyes and Stakiokas and even Warner as well earlier on were saving it a lot of fuel, Grebstad has been punching that hole into the air pretty much the entire race, so I expect him to lose 2 or 3 seconds come the pit stops with him having to take a bit extra fuel at the pit stop.
Indeed, and Bod Boland there under a good assault from Neil Cooper, but Cooper's got to be very, very careful because, as we said earlier, Stockman's all over the back of him there, and that Porsche, known to be pretty quick in a straight line, looks like they have, I believe that's Kraft working his way through. Yes, that indeed is your leader overall, working his way up through this battle. So got to be very careful. Don't want to disrupt too much. Kraft is going to be smart, but side by side there. Woo-hoo-hoo!
That was millimeters, wasn't it? That was super close. I think that was Kraft, if anything, moving across slightly. I don't think you can complain that it was the GTD's fault. Kraft actually just pulling away from Ola. He's been able to pull away by about 1.5 seconds since the pit stop. So Kraft seemingly with enough to hold on against Ola as long as the tyres hold on. Healy, sorry, just continuing the kind of the bad news for SCCR. They're doing so well earlier on. But that's a spin for him, and I'm sure the yellow flags would have been out. Just had to wait for a gap in the traffic, and got away nicely. Good rejoin there from the 216. I'm sure having his F3 screen open, I believe that dropped him behind Van Oitman and also Boschov. He'd already lost the position to Dupin, of course. He's now 20 seconds or so behind Dupin after that mistake. And there is Dupin, and he is now onto the back of Matthew Southby. So we've got 3 Belgians in a row, and in fact Lamont is only a couple of places ahead as well. So yeah, very competitive Belgian field out here, and this is Dupin trying to take this position. It's not for a position in class, but it does still count for points.
It does indeed, and remember I said earlier, ability to try to go around the outside here at turn 1. Remember, Japan throwing a very, very good crossover move earlier. Let's see if he can do the same to Sufi. Sufi's going to be able to block off that inside line. A bit of a heads-up play there for him. But unless I'm greatly mistaken, woo, Dupan looking very aggressive, trying to go to the outside of the International Horseshoe. And Sufi just blocking off that inside. Yeah, there's a little bit of rear wing damage, though, to the back of that Lamborghini up in front. And rest assured, Anton Dupan will have noticed that. That'll hurt that Lambo in a straight line a little bit, and so he will be on the maximum attack here to try to get by.
Gap currently to the leader, 11 seconds. So Dupan could still win this race. I think he's got the pace to do it. On that last lap, he was 3/10 faster, but of course it's tricky to judge, seeing that he was in traffic. But yeah, every lap that he stays behind is going to be troubling for him. He could take the early pit stop. They were expecting these guys to be into the pits within the next 2 or 3 laps or so. As in fact, Arbura coming into the pits right now. Dupan lifting out big time, didn't want to overtake into the bus stop. That was some good game for him there. Can he stay close now? It's a little bit iffy through the first part. Actually a good second part, however. He was quite far away from the dangerous curbs there. And this is looking very good now for the Tuk-Tuk Patrol racing driver, the potential championship leader after this round. As Jones comes into the pits. Is Dupan going to come into the pits? Yes, he is. Are they all going to come into the pits? They are. Can they get it stopped? They're entering with a lot of speed. Just about get it stopped in time. And now it's up to how much fuel they put in to decide who's going to be ahead.
Indeed, and Dupan perfectly into the box there. Yep, you see that Lamborghini's wing pop back into place, so that damage repaired with the fast repair. Now just waiting for the fuel to go into the car. As we said, we don't anticipate tires getting taken here for these GTDs, more than likely. Jump back up to the leader in that GTM category, as this is Jason Hodgson for Altitude Motor Esports.
Yeah, and just confirming what you were just saying before, not expecting tyres. I'm seeing no one take tyres so far according to the pit stop times. All kind of 35 to 40 second pit stops with very few exceptions. Dupan still behind Jones then. Apologies, he is now... apologies, it was Dupan and Selfie. Apologies, my bad. But he is ahead then, so that is good work there from Dupan. Yeah, normal to pit stop transfer time. That's a little bit quicker for him, so he gains a little bit of time. Anthony Beck now is off the track. Now, he has recently made his pit stop. In fact, he made his pit stop about 3 or 4 laps ago. He seems to have quite a bit of damage on the front of that car.
Yeah, I think the car just snapped around on him coming through turns 1 and 2, and he found that inside wall. You can see the front end of that BMW in a whole world of trouble. Looking very, very beat up there. So he is going to more than likely want to come back into pit lane, as there Hodgson, your leader in that GTD AM category, he decides to make his pit stop.
Hodgson's such a solid driver, of course. He often goes under the radar, but this is a proper good performance from him. Came into this round 3rd place in the championship, and will almost certainly be gaining points as Van massively. Oh wow, he's gone way over, and reversing like that is honestly really cutting it close to getting disqualified as well. He must have not known where his pit stall was. It's tricky for those guys who qualified quite far down the order. Their pit stalls will be very early in the pit lane, but he was really caught up by that, and that is going to lose him probably 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, very tricky to do as we now ride on board with Stakiokas as he tries to close down on Ray's, the leader. Be interesting to see what the Audi chooses to do here. If he's going to go for the past, a couple of LMP2s streaking on by. Both are going to come down pit lane, and whoa, there is a very good catch there from Stakiokas, being able to hold that Audi in the correct way. Almost goes into the wrong pit stall there too.
Yeah, does he get stopped? Oh, he was pushing it. Yeah, he pushed it too far. Oh man, you know, it's slim margins. That's great to smooth past Wemstra. That's for 3rd place in the P2s. Here comes Wemstra back again. Don't want to be alongside, going through the kink, very narrow corner. It's easy flat for these cars, and they are keeping it flat as well, just about avoiding the grass. That could have been disastrous there for Swimster. Had he clipped the grass, could have easily spun into his rival. And this is awesome battling between the two, and Freighter still keeping part of his car alongside. He can use the BMW to his advantage. Surely they can't go either side of the BMW. I think, well, there they go. They do go either side, and they meet pretty much in the exact same way. They've been alongside these guys for 3 or 4 corners, seemingly similar setups as well, because their straight line speed is very similar. Freitas has got his nose ahead, and of course was the one trying to initiate this overtake in the first place. Swemstra though, seemingly getting a lot of pace in the second part of that straight, and was able to get ahead, but now he's been held up. It's killed his momentum. Freitas will try to box him in. He can't do so. He's right up to the wall, and this is going to be more of the same. The NASCAR 3 and 4.
And don't look now, but that's James Forsythe getting very interested in this battle. All of us duking it out for the final podium position has allowed for the Englishman to be able to close in behind. He is going to try to push ahead the best that he can. That is going to be Freitas, and here comes the move by Forsythe, diving down to the inside. Freitas, I think, is going to let him go a little bit as all 3 cars check themselves up coming into turn 1, and your new order there is Swemster 3, Forsythe 4, Freitas in 5th.
So Forsythe after that mistake earlier on in the race, really catching up to these guys very quick, and yeah, up into 4th position again. Of course, his teammates with Zwemstra, we saw them constantly changing positions earlier on to being, oh, that's Hereford championship leader round again. He was already having a tricky round. I think the Dress do get a drop score to that they do, but well, I think this will need to be Hereford's, because he's now 50 seconds off the lead. He lost 20 seconds with that mistake. That's a huge mistake from Hereford. Which is odd, because, you know, when we joined him, it seemed like it was just a simple rejoin for him, but must have been quite a significant error, because, yeah, he lost 20 seconds due to that mistake.
Yeah, a big amount of time there, and so now he's going to have to worry about Anton Dupin, who we have seen have some incredible pace in that Porsche. Jumping back here to Stakiokas, remember he was trying to close down up ahead to raise in front of him. It looks like he's lost a little bit of time in that run. There is Warner, maybe looking like he's got a little bit more pace here in the second part of this race. Grebstead putting the pressure behind him, that pressure abated for the second. He's trying to close in a little bit on the back of Stakiokas.
A shame for Stakiokas, because I think you know, the gap was half a second beforehand going into the pits. It's now 3 seconds, and I think he can probably put 2 of those seconds gain down to that overshooting at the pit stop. It does lose you a lot of times to have to reverse again, and once again higher pit speed here at Daytona than most circuits. So it is particularly tricky to get the car stopped. You do need to put in some proper braking force in order to stop in your pit stall. And so yeah, big mistake there from Stakiokas, and chopped him out to the draft range that he was seemingly staying within very easily of Christoph Ray. He's going to have some spectacular pace to catch up by the end of the event. Yeah, of course, like you're saying, Warner still ahead of Grebstad. This is a change for 6th position, sorry, 5th position. No, it is 6th position. There you go, I got it eventually. In the GTD AMS. I think this is Knight catching up to Healy. Healy defending valiantly, as he has done all night long. Even when he is being outpaced, he will try to keep track position. Knight's on that last lap, half a second faster, but can't get past quite yet.
No, not quite yet, but he's certainly trying to. And remember, Healy here trying to just recover from that earlier on spin. Knight just putting the pressure to him. That BMW versus the Mercedes, the 2 German marquees working their way around. I like this line here for Knight. He's going to be able to take a little bit of a later apex, carry more momentum through the corner. He's going to poke that nose to the outside as they get onto NASCAR 1. Now dives it down the track. That'll give him a little bit more speed, and he'll be able to tuck up behind in the draft and maybe make a move coming here down into the bus stop.
It does go high. Well, this will be brave, and we know that Healy will be willing to brake late in order to hold on to the position. There's almost contact, and now there's the number 5 as well trying to navigate their way past. Healy pulls away, and 2 into 1 does not work. You can see the time that Knight has lost as well. He's going to have to take a couple of laps now to recatch that gap. Gribstad, by the way, I believe has just moved ahead of Warner, or maybe I'm being really thick. But Warner, yeah, was previously ahead. Apologies on my time screen saying he was 8 seconds clear, but that was not true. It's about 0.08 of a second instead. But Gribstad has had to work for that move for a while, but he is now up into 3rd place.
He is indeed, and that's going to be a welcome relief for Grebstad. We've kind of documented that losing of the pace by Warner over time. Now, Grebstad does have about 4 seconds to run up to try to close in on Justus Stakiokas in that Audi up ahead, and it's yet to be seen if he's going to be able to do that, especially with Warner being able to tuck behind here. I don't think this fight between the BMWs is quite over yet.
Yeah, I imagine Warner will probably just wait behind. Does seem like Gribstad, at least kind of from that period, kind of from about lap 20 to lap 30, seemed as though Gribstad was catching quite nicely. So I think it'd be wise for Warner to stay behind. And yeah, hopefully they can catch up to Stakiokas by the end of the race. Now that he's lost the draft to the cars ahead. These guys have been switching positions quite a bit. Cooper and Stockmans and Co. As Mojek has had another spin. That's his 2nd of the night, in 9th position now. But Cooper was slower on that last lap than Stockman, so I think Stockman may have got briefly ahead. Boland as well, a little bit faster than these guys. I think Boland had a problem near the start of the race. Qualified well, did Bod Boland. I can't quite remember what happened to him, but it was something at first which occurred. But he has been coming back well. This is for quite a comfortable place, 6th place, with Harbour only a 2.5 up the road.
Yeah, so certainly if these drivers have a little bit more speed, they'll be able to get themselves up and ahead. Doesn't look like Boland or Stockman is going to be close enough to be able to make the move on Cooper here quite yet in that Lamborghini, but Stockman's very, very good high-end speed there out of that Porsche. Watch for him to try to nail this exit. If he can minimize wheel spin here and really get the power down, exactly what he needed to do there. If that high-end speed on the Porsche can play out again, watch for a move down into turn 1.
He's already got the gap down to about 1.5 from the quarter of a second it was coming out of the bus stop. This looks very promising for the tuk-tuk patrol driver. Is he lifting out of it though? Or is it just starting to neutralise out near the end? Well, look at the move there from Boland. He saw an opportunity, and Stockman's maybe a bit of a reactive block. There goes Boland again. He is desperate to get past, and he was very much saying, well, if you're not going to overtake, then I will overtake you instead. And that is the risk that you play when you don't commit to the overtake. So Boland up to 7th place. We'll wait to see if he can do the same on Neil Cooper on the next time round. A quick shout out to one of the sponsors for this series, Virtual Racing School. Virtual Racing School, offering over 50 data packs for a variety of cars on iRacing. And those data packs including setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. So if you want to improve your iRacing performance, whether that be in single seaters, GTs, stock cars, Indy cars, whatever, do visit virtualracingschool.com in order to get yourself a subscription.
Yeah, I mean, that move from Bod Boland, very, very impressive stuff. He just saw the opportunity and went for it. As we jump back up in field, this is that battle with Grebstad and Warner. Remember, Warner not letting this go. I would have thought with more pace out of Grebstad that he would have been able to pull away from the STR driver, but it just doesn't quite look like he's able to.
All that time out for Stakiokas. I wonder if these guys maybe will see that in their F3 screens that they've just been able to catch by, well, it was 2/10 in the end. Well, yeah, to be fair, this time Stakiokas with a very good lap time, 44.6, actually pulls away from them by half a second. That's last time out of the Audi with a poor lap that was in the 46s back into the 44, so maybe not so much hope now for these guys. But yeah, Warner, yeah, just staying in the job, but we did see him make one mistake earlier on in this race. I think it was on lap 19, wasn't it? Where it lost him about 1.5 seconds, dropped him out of the draft of Reyes and Stakiokas, and perhaps denied him a chance at winning this event. As we see Matthew Selfie with another mistake. He has been in the walls, and that's a lot of damage now on that Lamborghini.
Yeah, and I think that was those dreaded sausage curbs on the inside of the bus stop. It looks like he got spun around and then made contact with the outside wall facing the wrong way. Let's watch. This comes through. Big hop at the curb. Car starts to go around, tries to get it woed up. Big contact into the left side of the car. That is going to be some pretty heavy damage. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of suspension issue. Yeah, look, he looks like he's crabbing a little bit there.
Something may have happened to Neil Cooper as well. He's now 4 seconds behind Wim Stockmans. That was Stockmans behind him. And so far at least we haven't seen any penalties given out, but I think that could be a worthy candidate. In fact, apologies, it was Boland. Ooh, that's a very poor rejoin there from Cooper. That's really low quality stuff. 23 was the car who he hit. Which is immediate. Oh, apologies. PJ Clayson's was the driver who he hit, and hopefully Clayson's hasn't got any damage from that one. But I wonder that is a couple of good, worthy, couple of incidents that could receive a penalty.
Yeah, it could indeed. An unsafe rejoin there, and Bod Boland just misjudging the braking zones. PJ Clayson's here going to opt to come down pit lane. This should be right at the beginning stage of the pit window for these LMP2 machines. Remember, we anticipate them taking 2 stops over the course of this race. So Clayson's, if he picked up some damage, he's going to come down. Jumping back up here to the battle that seems to never die. Forsdyke and Zwemstra still playing with each other. Whoa!
Ooh. That was Freitas coming up to the back of that. He was insanely quick there, was Freitas. Tries to make it 3 wide and had contact. There's been a problem though for Craig Jones, who was running in 3rd place out of the GTD AMS, and he is seemingly crabbing as well. So that has changed things around. So SK and SCC Simsports doing so well earlier on, fighting with 2 cars fighting for the win. Now, so this contact has already occurred then, because he's already crabbing, and then he's actually lost it again. Oh, so it's made it worse then with that one. Maybe bashed it into place again. Hopefully he's still got his fast repair available, and yeah, he has had to go back to the pits. And then that was Freitas trying to get the move done on the cars ahead. Freitas now up into 4th position. He has got past Zwemstra.
He has indeed. Just a good move down there through the 1st sector. Very heads up. Oh, Zwemstra flashing his lights. He's a little bit angry. He wants that position back if he can get it. Wide one there into the corner, and a little bit of a block all the way around.
Freitas off the track. Oh, that's going to lose him loads of time. And he was kind of, didn't think he outbraked himself necessarily, but he was kind of following the line of Forsdyke, and loses about 10-15 seconds there. Well, maybe not 10 seconds, apologies. About 6 seconds he lost in that one, did Freitas.
Alright, so this is Freitas there. You can see this is that move that he was trying to go for. This was the move to get him into that position, Sam. He's able to get alongside, pushes Zwemstra a little bit wide, and this was the flash of the lights. I think Zwemstra was a little bit angry at getting forced that wide, maybe thought things were a little bit bad, and then they're going to come up on traffic here. Freitas just misjudged the braking, didn't anticipate their Forsdyke slowing down quite the way he did, and that's what forced him off.
Well, that is going to take him potentially the rest of the race for him to regain. He's now 5 seconds behind the Alcantech NHR drivers. And keep an eye out on those times. By the way, we haven't been showing him too much, or either them too much, but Kraft now 15 seconds clear of Thomas O'Leary. And that gap has kind of under the radar increased a lot. I don't recall seeing any particularly bad laps. I'd say that graph very much disagrees. It's my favourite graph on SDK Gaming. You can see he lost probably, well, that's what, 1.8 seconds on 41, apologies, I think, yeah, 41. He lost 1.8 seconds, so yeah, that's why the gap has increased so much. But even despite that, I mean, Kraft has had more than enough pace, and was unlucky at Red Atlanta. He was leading in the very early stages before a driver rejoined the circuit over the crest and took him out. Did very well to get back to second place. And then last time out at Watkins Glen, initially didn't win the race, then he did win the race, and then post-race he didn't win the race. So he had to get some points back on O'Leary, but that is looking like he will do that tonight.
Well, if you're fans of Daniel Kraft, I encourage you to knock on all of the wood that you have right now to ensure we don't elicit the commentator's curse on that, but does look like he is driving a very, very clean race. O'Leary's trying to close in a little bit, and here comes Miguel Freitas coming down pit lane. Maybe a little bit of a mental reset, as well as getting that last splash of fuel that he will need to finish the race.
Yeah, well, he was the first one to pit earlier on, wasn't he? So not a big surprise that he's the first one to pit for his last pit stop. Still the shortest stint. I think this next one will be 30 minutes for him. He's done 2 35-minute stints so far, so no chance of him taking tyres, of course. If he was going to do that, he would have taken it. I imagine at his first pit stop. Expect the other guys to pit, yeah, maybe in a couple of laps, but I think we'll see some guys in the P2 class going as far as 4 laps further into the race. Of course, still pretty much the same amount of fuel you'll have to take. It just means that Freitas has to carry a bit more fuel across the event. As we see him come out, we'll be hoping not to get too much traffic in front of him. As he drops behind Sembera, they're just moving his way past. Also John Tusting, I think, going to be just behind him out on track, so he comes back out on circuit in 7th place. Not too many battles going on out on circuit at the moment. We've got maybe Krebstad and Warner. We've got Hicks and Woods. We've also got Forsdyke and Zwemstra, albeit those two are teammates. And also Hodgson and Hereford. Hodgson still, of course, the leader in the GTD field. As I certainly looked away there. DJ, what on earth happened there between Krebstad and Warner?
I think it was just a little bit of overspeed coming into the Western Horseshoe from Krebstad. You can see it here, just carries a little bit too much speed in. The rear end of the car wants to break away from him. This is a very surprisingly tricky corner there. The track crests in the middle of it, and if you get too far offline, it will start to become off camber from you. And it looks like there that he may have just either potentially bottomed out or gotten that car too far over to the left, and it started to break away, and the rear tires just not wanting to grip for him.
Whilst the track rubbering in usually is a good thing for the drivers, it can actually make this surface a bit more kind of slick, more slippery, as Kraft is in. A bit earlier than I thought, but I wasn't facing that on too much science. He could, I mean, honestly, he's close to being able to make an extra pit stop and still winning this race. He is a long way clear. Just needs to make sure he doesn't speed. Would be very bad for him. He's got plenty of visibility of his pit stop all the way at the back. I think he's also got, a different number there. I don't know if you go back to that previous camera, but you can see he's got a very nice number there. He's got then the Pure Sims logo on it, which I don't actually know how you do that, but that looks very cool.
Yeah, it very much does. As we've got some more pitters coming down here. Forsdyke and Zwemstra both opting to come down pit lane as well. And like on stints previously, as you said, O'Leary staying out an extra lap, so that is not exactly unsurprising.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. Did go 1 lap further in the first stint. He hasn't had any draft though in the second stint, has he? So you'd expect him to just do the same length as everyone else and just pit this time round. Should be quite an easy second place for him to end the race. Shout out, by the way, to SDK Gaming. They are the people who provide our overlay, and it is absolutely brilliant. And I think maybe before this overlay wasn't necessarily perfect for multi-class racing. I think now it is absolutely exceptional for it. The fact that you can see the top 5 in the the top 6 in this case in the various classes so easily up on screen. I think that really does help you guys watch along this race. And of course we can display lots of useful graphics like we have been doing. course, the pit lanes, you can even see at the bottom of the screen, we've got the different pit lane times at the moment. It is a fantastic display, and of course you've got lots of different designs to choose from as well. You can use it for a NASCAR ticker, you can use kind of NASCAR timing tower if you so wish. Lots of different options available on SDK Gaming. Of course, also provides live timing and a heads-up display as well for whilst you are driving. So do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk in order to get yourself a subscription. As we see Forstike coming into the pits now, his teammates did. As I think I might be watching the wrong thing. Forstike in 5th position, behind Swimster currently. I think I'm being very thick, basically. Still only 0.8 of a second between the two teammates out on track.
Yeah, exactly. That gap has separated out a little bit. Oh, as that's Grebstead. Grebstead around coming out of the infield.
Was there a hit from Warner? He was in that range, or was it by himself? He was on the grass, wasn't he? He was way on the grass. And just a lack of concentration, I think, there from Grebstead, and working so hard to get past Warner. Remember, he was sat behind Warner for about 20 minutes before he could finally pull off that move. And it's kind of been undone now.
Really has, and so that's a real heartbreak there for Grebstead. That battle continuing to rage, and this is going to promote Chris Warner just solely into that 3rd place position in class now.
He's fortunate actually to be far enough ahead of Herbura. It's often kind of understated just how close all these GTD pros are. I mean, I'm kind of thinking in my head at least that Razor's got this one absolutely in the back. Because he's only 4 seconds ahead of Sakiokas. I mean, it's not a big margin, but these guys are so consistent in the GTD pros that a 4-second gap is huge compared to maybe the GTD AMs, where you kind of think, well, that could change in a couple of laps. It's unlikely that Herbert will catch up, but it does kind of show just how close everyone is at the top of that field. As Jason Hodgson still holding back Oysten Hereford. Hereford having, I say it again, I've said it a few times, a really bad round. And we had that spin which lost him 20 seconds. Even without that though, it'd probably still be on the outskirts of the top 10 at best. And he's just trying to get, past Hodgson right here. It would be for an extra point. But of course Hodgson is fighting Dupin for the amateur class win. And he's only a second ahead of Dupin, who is looking for the championship lead. If Dupin wins this race, I believe he would be the championship leader in the amateur category. So a lot at stake here.
Indeed, quite a lot at stake here for Hereford, and the rest of them is focused back on Anton Dupin, continuing to work his way up through the field, and he's only got that 1 second gap to Hodgson, so the race very much on here as it was in Watkins Glen for the win in the GTD AM field.
He pulled off some good moves. That was on Kochi, of course. Last time out that he managed to pull off those moves. This time it's Hodgson. I feel like in other series that I've broadcast with him, seems to always come very close. As Hereford is, I think that's a bump draft there. I suppose Hereford isn't just driving straight past him, but I don't know. These guys aren't teammates. No, Altitude Esports versus Ignium, but this is not helping Hodgson right now. Dupin now only half a second off the lead.
Certainly not, and I've got to think that Hodgson's just having to drive in his mirrors a little bit. He's a little bit worried. He right on board with Dupin. Dupin now getting a good draft up in front, a couple of LMP2s streaking by, and that is going to be Dupin trying to see what he can pick up along the outside. Again, a little bit of a bump draft there, thinking about making this 3 wide down into turn 1.
Well, he's been able to box him in a bit here, has Dupin, but Hereford had enough speed. He's a little bit sideways though. Dupin remains alongside and will have the inside line into the horseshoe. Excellent work there from Dupin, and there's now no one dividing him and Jason Hodgson. We've got, yet again, 2 rounds in a row, a straight fight for the GTD amateur race win with Stringer, some 25 seconds further back. So it does seem as though Dupan has got the pace of iron. We saw him come into the fray late on in the last round. And the same thing this time. And honestly, he's catching so quick, I think we might see a move come the next straight.
We very well might indeed. Hereford there a little bit close behind, but Dupan just able to get a good jump there out of the infield. He's going to tuck up behind in the draft. Real question here is if he wants to go now or go later. It looks like the answer is go now, Sam.
Hodgson's got to fight this one. He cannot afford to let his rival get too far away. As I say that, lifts out a bit and lets him go. So he's going to just, yeah, instead elect to be behind, but he's already given up. Sort of 3 or 4 car lengths there, which is not what he needed. Now the gap is up to 7/10 of a second. He's barely within draft range. I think that's a big mistake there from Hodgson. He wasn't necessarily a terrible thing, to be fair. 2 lets it pass. Oh, we've got a car in the wall, and that's Ben Hicks. Pole position. But he has made a huge mistake there into the pit wall. And O'Leary has made a mistake, championship leader. O'Leary, has he hit the wall? He is into the wall. No, he did have a gap over Zoemstra. I think he's going to be all right here, Thomas O'Leary. But that is not what the Fiction Racing driver needed. Rejoins in 2nd place without too much damage.
No, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of parts flying off as we're going to take that look from Ben Hicks here to see exactly what happened. Now, Lamborghini that close behind, I don't like the sound of it. Yeah, there was a little bit of a love tap that sent Hicks right around, into the attenuator in the pit wall.
So that was Neil Cooper. Good work there, Sam Kume, to find who that was, and that means that Chris Wood, I think, gained a couple of places. After that, he's up into 8th place in the GTD Pro field. As we see what happened to O'Leary. Oh, is this with... I think this is with the same driver as... Is it not? It is, yeah. And, apologies. And there was O'Leary skating off the track. But, yeah, it didn't hit the wall too hard. That could have been a lot worse. So this is another issue then for Hicks. He'd already got damage and just trying to get it back to the pits, and of course losing control. In fact, actually, yeah, turning back to the pits. No, he's just letting the other drivers pass, but yeah, registering as an off track on our system, and he's still trying to get it back. There is Hicks, but oh, what a poor day it is for him. Led in the early stages, but a long way from that now.
Yeah, indeed. Very, very sad there for the Ferrari driver. He's going to have to come back in. Hopefully he hasn't taken his fast repair yet. He can just get that popped back into place. But we jump back into a nice little battle here. This is John Tusting and Darian Roy. Very, very close together out on track. This is the battle for P9 in that LMP2 class.
Tusting on that last lap, 6/100ths of a second faster. So they're very evenly matched. And they've got Quantum Racing Night Blind Racing for Darian Roy. For him. Quantum Racing, of course, very established team. And used to be, I want to say Team GB, was it? Or GB Motorsports, perhaps? But changed probably 2 years ago, I feel like now. Maybe 3 years ago even. And yeah, it's a very good name, to be fair. And both very good names. But here comes Roy. He's certainly got the slipstream, which I think is probably the most pressing thing in this scenario right now. And he will be very close. Again, the slipstream in these BT cars absolutely insane. I'm not sure if it's realistic necessarily, but it is very powerful. And Roy within inches of attempting a move.
Yeah, very, very close here. I think Roy just trying to apply a little bit of pressure. He thought about going for the move there, but he was just that far enough back that it wasn't close enough to do it. Tusting just trying to weave his way through some of these LMP2 or some of these GTD drivers, work his way by to the best of his ability to get on through. That didn't help Roy out, catching that car through the kink.
Valo off the track, and that could be good news for Bocci if he needs to pick up some repairs. No, Valo, I think he's all right with that one. That could have been a lot worse. Slipped onto the grass. Oh no, he has got damage. I thought he was all right, but no, that is crabbing a lot. Is Valo's car? He will need to come into the pits, and he's hit the wall again, and he'll do well to get that back to the pits. Hold the brakes, hold the brakes. Just about avoiding it was the STR car.
I think he's trying to get back going, but just blocking up pretty much the entirety of the track there.
eventually going back. I mean, there's another worthy unsafe retry, I think, there for Valet, who I think would honestly be better just to tow it back because that car's so damaged. And that is good news for Kochi because he will gain back one of those positions with a couple of points. As yeah, it's a long way to get back to the pits from here.
Yeah, it is, and you can see that car just kind of shaking a little bit. Definitely some suspension damage to that BMW, so he has got a long, long way to go to get on back.
Healy's now off the track. Again, he had a few offsets, Healy. And this one seems to be quite sustained for him. Ooh, that's a big hit. That's down at turn 1. And the 216 may need repairs for that. We're getting to the point in the race now where if you can get it to the end, you get it to the end, even if you're going 10 seconds laps slower. It can actually just be faster to try your best to get it to the end, as he's lost it. He's hit the P2 car now. Which one would that be?
That was O'Leary.
That P2. Oh, really?
Yeah, that was another front impact there for Thomas O'Leary, so O'Leary's got to be a little bit careful here. He's picking up a whole bunch of damage to the front of that number 96 machine.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can build rockets out of whatever the front of that car is because, I mean, yeah, like you said, he's had a couple of hits, but keeps on getting away with it. Healy, though, out of the race, or turning back to the pit, so, wow, it's got very good for Kochi in the last few minutes. Valo's still trying. Valiant, maybe could be described the effort for him, but it would have been much better, what feels like 20 minutes ago, to take back to the pits, at least getting down to the apron now. Beck is fighting with Knight. Jeez, Knight's had, honestly, there's so many guys in the GT3 Anfield who will be wishing this night never happened. And Knight is one of them. But he's up into 4th place. He has just got past Van Eyckman.
Yeah, he is indeed. He has about 10 seconds to go up to Stringer. So here, as time starts to close down, it may be a little bit too late, but certainly a good recovery drive for that 225 Ignium Motorsport Spark BMW, as he's just continuing to try to regain any positions that he can get.
Another shout out to another of our sponsors, Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy offering 29 day packs, including for a couple of the GT3 cars and also the P2 cars. So this would be a very good subscription for you if you are a fan of these vehicles. And in those data packs from Apex Racing Academy, you've got setups, track guides, weekly group coaching sessions, and it's also integrated with Virtual Racing School, which is very useful. You've also got the fantastic setup sync technology as well, which downloads the setups that you want for a specific round of the official series championships into your file directory, and also really useful from Apex Racing Academy, which is often something that, you know, other setup shops kind of lack when it comes to a special event. Maybe if the official series don't match up, you actually haven't got a setup, especially with full fuel, for example, for your setups. It can be a bit iffy. But Apex Racing Academy doing setups for the Daytona 24 hours. So they will be specifically for full fuel stints. So do make sure to check them out. As is this some bump drafting? It is some bump drafting. You don't usually see this in prototypes. And well, these guys have been messing around with tactics all night long, but I think that's the first time I've seen that tactic being used.
Yeah, I certainly haven't seen it out of the LMP2s. I've certainly seen it in the Mazdas, and I have seen it in some of the GTDs, but not out of the LMP2s there. So Zwamstra and Forsdyke definitely experimenting a little bit with team tactics. That is something altogether new and different.
I remember, I think the most incredible bunch after I ever saw was in the FR 2.0 when we were racing at Monza with no chicanes, and the core sim racing guys, who are a brilliant team. I'm sure many of our viewers will be familiar with them. I think it was Pascal Stix and Carl Winkler working together, maybe Sven Newman, I'm not sure. And yeah, they were bump drafting each other down the pit straight, and it worked like a treat. The draft in that car absolutely insane once you were within kind of 7/10 of the car ahead, and they really pulled it off well and had a very good night. But these P2s not easy to bump draft in either, but these guys are pulling off. I certainly wouldn't be risking it myself, seeing that they seem to have plenty enough pace over Freitas. He hasn't been really making any impression on these guys. Well, sorry, last time he gained 2 seconds to Freitas, but apart from that, he hasn't been catching ever since that mistake that he made about 5 laps ago or so. So it's risky stuff, but it seems to be working for them as they spread out. But then again, you get that huge draft effect, and I do wonder when you see that draft effect, DJ, if O'Leary hadn't wasted that time with Forsyth in the early stages, or apologies, I was with Swemstra, hadn't wasted that time, he could have so kept up with Kraft, because, you know, Kraft has been the faster driver, so we see Knights come into the pits for a late pit stop, a bit of an unusual one here, but, you know, I mean, we've seen Kraft as being the faster driver, but I do think that if O'Leary hadn't have lost that time in the first couple of laps, maybe he could have stuck with the car number 1.
I mean, he very well might have. Looking at their best lap times, though, Daniel Kraft able to pull down a 32.8, O'Leary only able to put down a 33.1. So Kraft clearly has more speed, but with that draft, it's a fascinating what could have been. I still think this would have been Daniel Kraft's race to lose. However, it could have led for some very exciting action up in front.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a bit of a shame. Now, of course, we would denied a good battle as well at Road Atlanta, but, well, we've still got 3 more rounds of this championship remaining, and it would be 2 race wins for O'Leary, 1 race win for Dan Kraft if it ended like this. So the championship would be well and truly on. Very few battles going on out on circuit, and there's plenty of close cars, but the consistency out on track at this point in the race really at a very strong level. We have got Dupin battling Hereford still, and they have been able to drop Jason Hodgson. So Hodgson, maybe his tyres are going off a bit. He has not been able to keep up with Dupin, and Dupin looking very good for a GTD and race victory. He's been able to keep behind Hereford as well. I think is just hoping to get to the end of the race without any more crashes, honestly. They are catching up to Samuel Lamont though, so that might get close. He's the Arctic Racing driver, 3 seconds ahead, pro driver, but they will both have an interest in passing him. There he is, just ahead. And in the GTD Pro, it is still close, 3.8 seconds between Reyes and Sakiokas. 1 lap, Reyes loses half a sec, or loses 3/10. The next lap he gains 3/10. That's kind of been the story a bit. Sakiokas, I think, has just had a poor first sector. I think he was run wide at turn 1, lost a 1.5 seconds. So that gap now up to 5.6 seconds, so looking very good for Christoph Reyes to take this race win, and it will also be the championship lead as well.
It would be, and for Stakiokas, it just comes down to that pit stop error yet again. What could have happened if he hadn't overshot his marks in the pits? We saw that Audi really be close to Reyes and challenge the Lamborghini the entire race, but ever since he came out of the pit stop, lost touch with that draft, and he has just looked like he is unable to close in to get that draft back.
Really good to see him drive so well though, because again, I might be being ignorant, as Darian Roy has a problem. He was battling with John Tusting, Snooper. He's now 12 seconds behind Tusting, and he's just lost 8 seconds due to that incident right there. But yeah, it's good to see Sakiokas because, like I was saying, I might be being ignorant, but I don't believe he's been at the front too much in the first 2 rounds of the championship, so it's really good to see him being up there, and hopefully we can see that Audi up near the front for the rest of the championship as well. I don't know about you, DJ, I haven't got a skin on that car, it's just grey for me. I hope that we get a bit more of a extravagant paint scheme on that car as well.
I hope as well, because I think naturally that Audi R8 is one of my favorite looking cars in the world, certainly on the street and here in the sim. I just love the lines on it. And so, yeah, I'd love to see a little bit more than gray, as that looked a little bit sideways there for Stakiokas. I think his tire's definitely starting to go here in the waning stages of the race.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that with a few drivers. I'm not sure if that was why Knight came into the pits. Just thinking, maybe did Knight come into the pits early for his first pit stop? I mean, I didn't think he did. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one. But yeah, he's still battling out there is Knight. He is, yeah, is he going to catch up to anyone by the only race? He's got Beck ahead of him. Oh yeah, 30 seconds. Well, probably not. Would be pushing it a bit to catch up to Beck and then even further to Van Oitman. Well, we have these teammates who have been, you know, working together for the whole race, and we wait to see who is going to be ahead come the last lap. I wonder, do you think they'll just have a one-lap shootout to decide it, or do you think they'll decide it some other way?
Well, I think this is the point when they will start to take the gloves off, if that is the case. This is a little bit of a battle here. This is Hereford and Dupin. Oyston Hereford able to get his way back by Dupin. Now, this isn't for class position, but this is for GTD position overall.
Yeah, I think it's an extra point, so you want to get it. And that is what Hereford has done. So that late race move, they're not going to catch up to Le Mans. They are still catching Le Mans, but it's not enough. Still 3 seconds behind with 4 minutes to go. They'll need a mistake from the driver ahead to come back, but here comes Dupin, and I think Hereford just knows that he's not going to be able to defend this one. I wonder if he's got some damage on that car, and he's not even fighting it, so he's going to have to leave it right to the last, I think, as Hereford maybe tries to get him on the run to the line, because I think if he passes him before then, he will just get passed again straight back by Dupin, like has just happened.
Yeah, and that's a little bit where you start to have to do the reverse math here on it. You do not want to be leading coming out of the bus stop 9 times out of 10 on that last lap. You want to be right where Hereford is right now, tucked up behind in the draft, being able to make the move as they go across the start-finish line here. That is where you want to be. You do not want to be in the lead.
Yeah, we'll see if he times it right. Not seeing anyone else who is going to be that close. In fact, we've still got Stockmans and Herbrea, which could be a bit close. Stockmans just gained half a second on Herbrea. That is the battle for 5th and 6th in the amateur. Apologies, in the GTD Pro. You can kind of see the gap's now down to 1.5 seconds. Apologies, this is my bad. So it was. Stockmans did gain on Herbrea, but that gap is 3 seconds. The closer gap is between Stockmans and Boland, but Boland just lost 2 tenths. So probably not going to be a particularly close one there, but of course traffic could still make a bit of a difference in the remaining stages. Of course, if you've enjoyed this video, do make sure to leave a like on it. Make sure to subscribe to Apex Racing TV as well, because we've got lots more content coming up in the coming weeks. Always very busy time in the sim racing world is the winter, so it's a very good time to check out all of our streams. Got lots of different racing on TC cars, of course, prototypes, GT single-seaters, ovals, of course, as well. So do check that out. As Zwemstra moves us back ahead of Forstijk, but well, Forstijk will have the opportunity to get back ahead by the time they get into turn 1.
He will indeed if he opts to. Looks like a little bit more of that bump drafting tactic almost coming into play. Doesn't look like Forstijk is going to go for it here quite yet. And Sam, if
very big slide there. So what are you saying?
I was going to say, if my calculations are correct, I think we are at 2 laps to go. That is Valo having an off. Whoa, a little bit of 3 wide. That's the 74 moving his way through as Dupin holds on to that lead of the GTAMs.
That was very close there for Dupin. 5.5 seconds ahead of Hodgson. Oh, now we've got the spinner again, so he'll have to make his way back past us to catch pole with the mistakes there. And Freitas is right with the Alcantech guys. I don't know if they've been battling too much. I don't know why they've lost so much time. Have Zwemstra and Forsyth, but Freitas has got a chance at a podium here. And I think this is maybe down to Alcantech's own doing, but he's got to catch a lot in these closing stages. Certainly getting a bit of a draft, and just in the sectors he gained about half a second in sector 1, 10th in sector 2, 2 tenths sector 3, a couple of tenths in sector 4 as well for Freitas. They get a bit held up by the Team Madcar as well, which of course is Freitas' teammate, as we head on to what will be the last lap of the race. Another change there. Forstijk getting ahead of Zwemstra. and the gap to Freitas now just half a second.
Yeah, Freitas smells that blood in the water later on the brakes as he's able to dive it in a little bit hotter. Another big twitch there at his Zwemstra. Those two Alcantech cars do not look happy on the rear tires.
Will he go for it now, Freitas? Oh, defensive there. Is Zwemstra going to sacrifice himself just to try to protect Forstijk? I'm not quite sure, but the tyres will be screaming at this point. They haven't changed tyres for the entire 100 minutes of this race. As Dan Kraft is reaching the final, I think he's going to the NASCAR turn 4 at the moment. The checkered flag is waving for our P2 winner. Daniel Kraft takes his first race win of the season. It was his third pole, but his first win, and that is very well deserved. O'Leary will finish in second place, so he's going to finish in third, which is going to be the big thing. Our next winner will be the GTD Pro, Christoph Reis, who is 5.5 seconds clear of Stakiokas, and it's been a really smart drive from Christoph Reis. I think he's been the fast driver, but really high IQ driving as well, and he takes the GTD Pro win, and I believe the championship lead as well. Stakiokas with a strong second place. As Forstijk, I think he's safe. I think Forstijk is safe. I don't know if that was deliberate from Zwemstra just to protect him. I think he's going to be got though right at the end. They're going to go 3 wide with the Mercedes. It's going to be extremely close. Who is going to have the advantage? He's got the side draft has Freitas. He's moving ahead, but now it's Zwemstra getting the draft from the GT. They don't quite catch it up. Freitas though gets there, and that was by 0.00, and by judging by our timing tower, it was by 1,000th of a second. Super close there. Freitas gets in 4th position. That will be quite satisfactory for him, considering how far behind he was with a couple of laps to go. Meanwhile, Anton Dupin, midway through Watkins Glen, I don't think you would have been predicting this. Back-to-back race wins and the championship lead. Anton Dupin for Tuk Tuk Patrol wins at Daytona. That is a really strong performance for him. Once again, that late race pace really coming into his hands. So it wasn't quite the photo finishes we saw for the race win last time out, but wow, 1,000th of a second between Freitas and Zwemstra.
Yeah, absolutely incredible battling there after 100 full minutes of racing. Just goes to show you the talent and experience and breadth of this field. Some really, really good stuff, and a great never say die attitude there from Freitas to just keep that in there as long as possible.
We see our race winner slaloming about. Good effort there from Christoph Reis. Dare I say that might be his first race win of the season as I look at the championship standings. No, he did win last time out, apologies, at Watkins Glen. It was quite a dominant performance actually by him at Watkins Glen. It's quite as dominant as it was here, but he is the big favourite now. And of course Hereford, who won back at Road Atlanta, that gap very much being cut tonight, and I'm pretty sure Reis will now be the championship leader in that, but by no means over. We're only halfway through the season, but those two will be quite far clear of the rest. Grebstrad and Warner in 3rd and 4th places, as everyone trying to avoid any more collisions on this in-lap right now. I mean, I think, you know, whilst we kind of see maybe Reis is the favourite in the GTD Pro, you think Kraft has maybe made himself the favourite in the P2s because he's now got that race win? Yes, he hasn't got the championship lead, but honestly, I think in the first 3 races he could have won all of them as Kraft, but you know, that incident, which wasn't his fault at Road Atlanta, then the spin at Watkins Glen kind of cost him. Do you see him as the favourite with the remaining rounds?
I certainly do. He has got the target on his back here at this point now that he's been able to break the duck in this season and get some of that bad luck out of the way. I think he is going to be very, very difficult to beat, but that hole he has to dig himself out from after Road Atlanta is going to be very difficult to do, Sam.
Yeah, you wonder what would have happened on that one, but what happened here was 34 seconds. Crazy. O'Leary must have really been struggling with the tyres, I think, by the end. We did see him have an off, and maybe he had some damage, but yeah, Kraft was in a league of his own. Top 3 pits as well. Well done, guys. Forstijk in 3rd. Zwemstra, no! Was Webster beat Freitas then? So according to this, which I think is the right standings, it was the other way around. I thought Freitas beats Webster by 1,000th of a second. That's how close it is. I don't know how we can have discrepancy about that. You know, we don't deliberately make it controversial like that, but apparently Webster beat Freitas by less than 1,000th of a second. Mega stuff. Catchpole was ahead of Clayton, Stennis, Embera, Tusting, Gosling, Mochek, Roy, Shermans and Barnes. Those two big retirees, but to be fair to everyone else, they managed to get to the finish. In the GTD Pro, Rays 5 seconds clear of Stakiokas. Warner, would he have been in the fight had he not made that mistake on lap 19? Probably not. He didn't seem to quite have the pace of the guys ahead. Gribstead will be frustrated not to get the podium after that spin from 3rd place. Herbera was in a quiet 5th. Then Stockman's Boland, Wood, Cooper, Lamont, Hereford, who was the championship leader, a minute off the lead. Boshoff, Beck, Hicks and Southby rounding out the order. And in the GTZ AM, Dupin 6 seconds clear. It's all very misleading this. They weren't that far clear of Stringer, but it was a decent margin. Probably about 20 seconds or so to the 3rd place man, Van Oytven, Knight, Kochi, who might still be championship leader. Kochi, I think he loses the championship lead now to Dupin. He was in 6th place. Then was Healy, Jackson, Valle, Jones, and Guiducci, who started last and at least in class, he finished last. But of course there were some retirees as well. So we are going to be able to have a chat with a few of our drivers, and I think first up will be Mr. Christoph Reyes, who joins us in the commentary box. Congratulations, Christoph! Another round, another win.
Woohoo! Yeah, indeed, back to back. Not expected again, but I'll take it any day.
It seemed like a very tactical race in the early stages. Talk us through it from your perspective. Were you deliberately staying behind some drivers, deliberately overtaking other drivers? Kind of what was going on in that first stint?
Yeah, indeed. I like those kind of tactical races, and eventually paid off in the pit stops. But yeah, in terms of tactics, of course, start with just trying to survive, and then I managed to make up some places because of mistakes of other people. So I managed to get P2 and eventually made a quick move to P1. But then, yeah, some guys came back. I mean, I think it was just us in the Audi who then overtook me. But yeah, then it was deliberately just trying to stay behind because I saw you had a pretty damn good pace. Try to save some fuel because I knew it would pay off in the pit stops later.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if you saw, but he overshot his pit stall in the pit stop. So I think your stationary times was fairly similar, but he lost about 2 seconds on that, which kind of got you that little bit of a gap. Was there ever any pressure after that? Because, you know, you didn't change tyres out there, no one did. Were those tyres stressing at all, and was that maybe your main concern in the closing stages, or was it all fine from your perspective?
Well, for just as that at least explains the sudden 3 second gap. That was a nice one. that actually made my race, I think. But from then on, yeah, it was the tires weren't a real concern. The wear was really low, and since it was getting darker and colder, it was, yeah, just getting better and better. The car felt stable the way throughout. But yeah, in terms of pressure, there definitely was. It was only 3 seconds, and just like a stupid move with a an LMP car or a lap car would bring that car right back down, that he could join the slipstream again, and then it would start all over. So it was balance between, of course, not crashing and trying to maintain the gap.
Are you racing in the Daytona 24 Hours this weekend with Flemish Simsports?
Yes, this time the LMP, luckily. So it's a bit of a change of pace.
Have you, do you do much LMP driving, I mean, in the official series, or will it be a bit of a new experience for you?
I don't drive any officials, actually. I just do league racing, but still the LMP is totally new for me, totally new for the team as well. So it will be kind of a challenge, but it's a nice one. It's a nice change.
Yeah, I imagine that will be, what, maybe third or fourth split for you guys? What are you kind of thinking will be your split for that race?
I have actually no clue. You see, I don't do a lot of officials, so in terms of splits, I don't really know. Also, my I rating is just so low that it doesn't really matter.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Christoph. I'm sure you'll do very well in the 24 hours after this performance. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Thank you so much. And our team, Flemish Team Sports. Let's hope we have a cracking race in 24 hours. And then also with our sponsor, Virgo.
Awesome, Christoph. Congratulations on the first half of the season. And best of luck in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you. Thank you for commentating. I'm looking forward to looking back.
Christoph Reis there, your race winner in the GTD Pro field for the second round in a row. DJ, who would you like to have a talk with?
Well, I'd love to bring up to the booth here Anton Dupin, who was once again one of the chargers through the field. Anton, you're making a bit of a habit of working your way up.
Yeah, it's not what I want to do, but yeah, just circumstances forced me to the back. And then I just tried to stay clean and out of troubles, save my tires a bit, and yeah, that worked out okay, I guess.
Well, we saw you at the end, once you were able to get up into the lead, having that little bit of a battle with Oystein Hereford, obviously one of the GT Pro drivers. How much were you treating that like a battle, and how much were you treating like that like a bit of a just sort of, okay, this is a different category driver?
No, I'm just fighting everybody because the points are based on the general standing. So I'm quite a bit behind in the championship. So if I want to catch up, I have to take every point I can. So I try to do that without taking unnecessary risks, of course. But yeah, I'm definitely fighting for every position.
Well, fight well you did. Looking ahead in 2 weeks' time, we head to one of my personal favorite tracks in Mid-Ohio. How do you think that's going to favor out for you?
No idea. I don't really know the track, so I think I've driven it maybe once or twice. So yeah, I don't know. I think I will just take the same approach, just not rush anything, stay out of trouble, and try to take as much points like that.
Well, we wish you the best of luck when you get there, Anton, and anybody you'd like to thank for this victory in the GTAM category today.
Yeah, for sure. My teammate Wim, and also our sponsor Tuk Tuk Patrol. I forgot to give him a shout out last time, so that's now settled.
Well, there you go. That was Anton Dupin, your winner in the GTD-AM category. Back to you, Sam.
Yes, we've got a couple more interviews to go, and I think next up will be our podium sitter, or one of our podium sitters in the GTD Pro field. Chris Warner joins us in the commentary box now. Chris, congratulations, another podium for you, some more strong points. I've got to ask you though, we saw it on the timing tower, we didn't see it on screen though. Lap 19, you seemed to lose about 2 seconds, it dropped you off the top 3. Do you recall what happened on that lap?
In all honesty, I don't. Hi guys, by the way. I don't. I know that myself and Hacken were having a bit of a ding dong, let's say. So I don't know what happened on lap 19. I'll have to look at the replay. It's all a bit of a blur.
It's understandable. I mean, it's a long race. I mean, do you, kind of on that topic of 100-minute races, much longer than the official series, really much longer than most kind of league series as well. Is it quite unusual for you, and is there kind of anything different to prepare for the race with it being so long?
I've done plenty of endurance races, so it's not that from a time wise, it's not that I'm used to running 2-hour, 3-hour stints, so that's not a problem. I am notoriously heavy-footed, so that's something that I have to get better at, because things like fuel saving I find difficult, or more difficult than others. So I think that helps. I try to fuel save. I normally pit a lap earlier than everyone because of the way my throttle usage. So I managed to save a lap of fuel behind people, and that was my plan at the start. Unfortunately, I lost a draft with the top 2 guys after a couple of rounds with the LMPs, and after that it was go as fast as I can, really. So don't mind it. Pretty used to it. It gets a bit the traffic is difficult, so that's something that can catch you out at a moment's notice. But I don't mind it. I quite enjoy the longer races.
Yeah, and certainly been getting some good results so far this season. Next up, we go to almost the total opposite circuit to this one. It's Mid-Ohio. When was the last time you did that car track combo?
Car track combo, I can't remember. I do like Mid-Ohio. I don't know if I like it with LMP2s. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's a good track. It's a fun track to drive, but that will be exhausting, I think, for an hour and 40 minutes. I think I'll need to do some prep to build the arms up a little bit.
Sure, yeah. I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of that circuit, but yeah, I think you're right, with the P2s, it will be very tricky for you guys to keep it clean out there. Are you racing in the Daytona 24 Hours this week?
I'm not, unfortunately. No, we've got a team in from SimTech Racing, but I'm not going to be able to make it, unfortunately.
That is, that's a shame, but of course you'll be back for round 4 of this championship at least. Is there anyone you'd like to go shout out
to? You guys, first of all. Thanks for making the stream possible. Bart for the organisation, and everyone at SimTech Racing. Great team.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Chris. And best of luck for the second half of the season.
Thank you very much, guys.
Chris Warner there, your 3rd place in the GTD Pro. DJ, next interview.
I'd like to bring on in your overall victor here today, Daniel Kraft. Daniel, it looked like you were pretty much untouchable, just in complete and total control of that race from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, we got good pace in the car, especially around Daytona, and it was just full push, trying to break that toe. Then getting through the traffic the first time around was pretty hairy, but once I escaped, I was just eyes forward and tried to build the gap.
Was this a little bit of a statement race for you? Obviously some bad luck in the past 2 weeks, and to finally be able to break your duck, it seems a little bit like you are stamping your authority here on this championship.
Yeah, I've had quite a bit of bad luck so far. At round 1, I think I span or crashed, and then in round 2, at the chicane, I just had a technical issue, and the car just went straight after I hit a bump. So yeah, it was nice to finally have one clean race and to be able to show you guys what I can do on track.
Well, you certainly did show it, my friend. But looking ahead, Mid-Ohio, a little bit of a different circuit, and particularly hairy in these LMP2s. How do you like your chances coming around that tricky track?
It's going to be very tricky. I really enjoy the track, but with the traffic, with the GT3s, is could be anyone's game. It's going to be a lot harder to put a gap around Mid-Ohio because there's a lot less passing opportunities, and you can get stuck behind a GT3 and lose plenty of time. So it should be a much closer race, but it will be good fun.
Well, we hope it is a good fun for everybody. But as for today, a win. Anybody you'd like to thank for standing on this top step of the podium?
I would just like to thank the organisers. Yeah, we've been really enjoying the series so far, and I'd like to thank the team, Pure Sims Esports, and the Pure Sims shop, as well as Freem and SimLab and Cube Controls as well.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again, Daniel, on a great victory.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the broadcast.
That was Daniel Kraft, your victor here today. Sam?
Yeah, we've got one more interview to go, and this time we've got Seb Herbria, who joins us in the commentary box now, finishing in 5th position. Yeah, my brain's gone really messy. I can barely count to 5. It is 5th position for Seb Herbria. Congratulations, Seb. Dare I say, and feel free to correct me on this one, slightly of a dull race for you because you're very competitive, but you always seem to have 3 seconds to the car ahead and 3 seconds to the car behind.
Yeah, that's exactly right. First, good evening, and yes, it was fifth. And I'm very happy with that, considering I had to fight the car quite a lot. But yeah, I was able to stay with the lead pack for the first few laps until the first round of LMPs came through, and there I just lost touch a bit. And then I had Wim Stockmans behind me, who kept me pretty honest over the whole race. And after the pit stops, it was just Hakon and Chris in front of me, and Wim, Neil, and Bort behind me. And those three behind me just fought between themselves, so yeah. I had a bit of a boring race towards the end, but a good race.
How was the grip as the race went on? Because of course, we had the tyre degradation, you guys not changing tyres, but also the track was getting cooler. So was it getting grippier out there, or was it still losing time as you went on?
My fastest lap was in the beginning in the draft, and after that I was constantly and consistently around 44.6, 44.7, so the grip didn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, how all those factors seemingly, at least for your case, kind of all evened out. Next up, we've got Mid-Ohio. Now, back in the days of Simracersworld GT, even then I can't really remember visiting that circuit, if I'm honest. It's really not visited a lot. What are your thoughts on the track?
I have no idea. I think I never raced there. I think I bought it because it was on the official schedules at some point. I bought it, I tried to race it, and it didn't click with me, and so I have no idea. I have to start training there.
Well, best of luck for it. I think it's very good, so hopefully you'll have some good fun around there. Are you going to be racing with Berserk Racing in the 24 hours?
Yes, we just recruited a fourth man because we are a pretty new team, and now we have a 4-man roster, and we are looking forward to race the Friday evening slot. And yeah, let's see how we end up.
Yeah, best of luck, especially with the netcode from those Aussies. If there are a few Aussies racing in that earlier split.
Is that the Aussie split?
I think so, yeah. I think that's kind of what the main aim for it is, so that it kind of starts midday their time.
Oh, I haven't thought of that. Okay, maybe we should reconsider, because the netcode is a factor. It's a big factor.
Well, if you do change, you can send me 50 quid in the post, for that good recommendation. But best of luck, whichever split you do for the 24-hour sub. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, shout out to Bort, my teammate. He's keeping me active, he's keeping me training, and keeping me interesting in all this. And to Bart for organizing all the leagues and just for being a cool guy. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Seb, and best of luck for the weekend.
Thank you. Are you racing as well?
No, I'm 300 miles away from my rig. I've got my PC, but I don't have a steering wheel, so I'm gutted, I've got to say.
Ah, too bad. All right, then have a good evening as well.
Yes,
at least
yourself as well. See you then. Seb Herbert then in 5th position tonight in the GTD Pro category. Another really good night of racing there, DJ. Next up, Mid-Ohio though, and it is a really good driver circuit in my opinion. Once again, I know some people don't like it, but lots of kind of medium speed corners, lots of elevation change as well, and also the walls get pretty close around some parts of the track. However, with multi-class around there, that's going to be really tricky because there's really very few places at all for easy overtakes for the P2 cars.
Yeah, indeed. Really, the only two areas that you're going to have to be able to get a good overtake done are going into the keyhole and coming through China Beach. So it's going to be very, very tricky. And I think that race, more than any other that we've seen thus far during the course of the season, is all going to be down to traffic management.
Yeah, I think that's a very good shout. Yeah, you could really see drivers being held up for the entirety of the second sector, and if you're in a P2 in that scenario, you could be losing 2 or 3 seconds to your rivals. So yeah, going to be really important. You do not want to miss that. That will be on in 2 weeks' time. Of course, this series swaps around, alternates with the Simracersworld Simutech TCR Winter Series, so that is on at the same time each Tuesday. Different format though, 3 20-minute races. Thoroughly recommend checking those streams out as well by liking this video and subscribing to Apex Racing TV, where you can also see all of our other racing. Tomorrow we've got the Porsche Cup, the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup. We've also got Apex Racing League Touring Car Britain on Thursday. Got Radical Official Series on Friday. Also got ARL Prototype Championship on Friday. Got F3s and F3.5 on Saturday. Got Spec Racer Ford and IGP Fun on Sunday, and lots of other stuff as well. So do make sure to subscribe to the channel and check out our social media pages as well on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from DJ Clark and from Sam Kume, we are going to say goodbye, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Midday High. See you then.